Witsit,
Voice up for the viewers, apparently.
Witsit, you got anything for us? Save us, Witsit, please.
Witsit always has something.
Yo, tell us about that. Tell us about that blue shift star. That shit sounds dope.
Zanick, it's morphin' time.
They saw a star. They thought it was coming towards us because it was blue shifting. And they said, oh, never mind. Turns out it just has a really strong magnetic field and it tricked us.
No shit.
So we learned something new.
Kosho?
So we can learn something new.
Blue shift.
When we see blue shift, we need to be skeptic a bit, and maybe it's magnetic field. It's good to know. It's good to know.
You make too much fucking sense, Chucky.
No, we learn. We learn. That's what we do.
Alter our perception of redshift or blue shift, maybe. Huh?
No, but
yeah,
Chucky's
you need to start rethinking things.
Chucky's making a point, dude. Like, we're not chronic, and we're not astronomers. I'm sure astronomers, if they don't think like Chucky just said, then they're doing it wrong. Because if you're witness a blue shift, you shouldn't have an assumption about it. You should probably explore, like, you know, whatever all the possibilities could possibly be. Because I'm sure shit like this could happen all the time.
I just said it from default.
Maybe we should do the same thing with redshift.
Jackie,
maybe we should do the same thing with redshift.
Exactly.
Jackie, real quick.
Exactly. It has huge implications.
Jackie, I was dead for. I didn't know my microphone was not working for the last 10 minutes. So I was asking you, what was the thing that
Zanick was trying to overtalk all of us.
Jesus Christ!
No, I was just trying to. I thought you were just ignoring me. I didn't realize my microphone was off.
Maybe we were.
You weren't, because my microphone was broken. Thank you for that, Elijah. Make me feel a little.
Did you try picking it up and dropping it?
Can you let Zanick speak? Why you talk over him? He was talking.
Guys, why are you interrupting Zanick, interrupting Witsit, interrupting Jeremy? What are you doing, bro?
No, Zanick didn't interrupt anyone.
Chai, can you take some?
Jeremy had to immediately talk over him. He didn't wait.
Chai, could you take some Tylenol?
No.
Daytime, because you always sound tired.
No.
Okay, Chucky. So I don't lose my mind here. Out of curiosity, what was said that I can.
That you said that Earth is accelerating up or expanding.
Yeah, I want to jump in, but wait, what was said?
No, I said the ground is accelerating upward. The space and time are bending. The space, the fabric,
everything.
Space, time is bending and warping.
Everything that can go in accelerate upwards. That we know.
Hey, Zanick, can I ask you a question, Zanick?
Wait, let Trike finish this one clarification.
That's what I said. Once you hit the ground, you can't be in your natural place where you should be, where the universe should think you should be.
What
the ground they apply force on you,
correct,
and you're accelerating up.
It's accelerating,
but the ground doesn't move.
The ground doesn't move. But you are inertial. You were inertial when you were falling. You hit something that was accelerating to you based on the lines of geodesics, the geodesic lines which are going to the center of the Earth. Therefore, it stops your progression through time and space, and now you have weight. You're not moving anymore with respect to the ground, and that's why there's a force applied to you, giving you weight. The weight is your force on the ground or on the scale. Witsit, we don't need that. Your force, the force is a pseudo force, a fictitious force, an inertial force on the scale, and the scale acting back on you is a proper force, is a real force.
Nice. So, Shaiki, are you satisfied?
Absolutely. I said he didn't say that the Earth is accelerating up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's not going
It's not expanding, it's not moving, nothing is moving.
Yeah, he keeps on conflating that with the radius of the Earth getting larger with this term. They fail to realize that acceleration can be a change of direction or a change of magnitude. We're only talking about a change of direction with the lines of the geodesic lines being arced or bent toward the center of the Earth.
I would like to humbly offer some input here. I heard that this was a real shit show last night. So can we maybe pass this conversation for just a second because I want to ask
It
you a
was
question.
just a clarification. Yeah, we done.
Thank you.
Well,
Zanick.
real quick, because I gave a scenario earlier with Jeremy and Zanick wasn't here. I just want to hear Zanick's answer. There's a hunter. He's got a rifle. He shoots the deer. Does the bullet travel to the deer, or does the deer come to the bullet?
The bullet is traveling to the deer.
Okay.
Unless you're talking about from the gun's perspective and the bullet's reference frame, the deer is coming to the bullet.
No,
Okay.
y'all are wrong. If it's a chopper gunner and it's shooting towards the ground, then for sure the deer is going to the bullet.
Yeah, bro.
Because of the geodesic, lines that we
I thought
made
it was
up.
space and time. Oh yeah, that's right. Geodesic lines of the space time. That's right.
Well, this is why I want to
So
press them on the space.
one of the
I want to press them on the space time.
one of the confusions yesterday with analogies, which is really kind of interesting, was that we tried to show, like, in a court of law, how would you say which is moving toward the other? Well, one of the examples was being in a river, and you're like a floating feather in a river, and you're going to run into this rock in the middle of the river. And one thing that was left out, and I kept on saying this over and over again to Rakia, was that we're missing the acceleration factor. That's not analogous. What's more analogous, as an example, is being in a car. We always use this, and I take a turn, and
we're not going there.
Hold on, let me just finish the thought.
Yeah, it wasn't an invitation, Zanick.
I
just wanted to ask
finish
about
the thought,
bullet
guys?
deer.
Seriously, really? Sarah, are you guys?
No, you guys
serious
did
right
it.
now?
You guys got to let him finish. You guys did it. I tried to give us
Geo, Jeremy, Mario.
I'm moderating right now, so I said they have to let him finish, man.
Well, who wants to host it, or who's hosting right now? What are we doing? Like, what's the plan?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I tried to give us an out, but Dyslow couldn't fight the urge.
No, I'm more. If we're going to talk about that subject, I'd love to know more about if the hunter is on a hot air balloon. That's what I want to know. If the bullet is where the bullet's going. I'm kidding.
Maybe in a second.
Yeah. Let's just let Witsit get.
What about if it was in the sun?
All right. Well, I'm currently practicing double-speak celibacy, so no means no for me. But if you guys want to engage, it's perfectly fine. I'll sit this one out.
Nah, you're good, bro. My bad.
Well, I just want to ask because, like all your explanations had to do with space-time, right? So, what's your take on modified Newtonian dynamics, then?
All right, Witsit wants to engage. That's what I'm saying. Like, if somebody wants to host it and then direct it, because if it's not directed, these guys will do their thing. They'll loop, they'll do the looping and the whole deal for hours, to try to frustrate everybody and just assert all this stuff. So, but if someone wants to engage with it, I mean, he just asked you a question, so.
Okay. I'll back out with Zanick, but I was. This is a very tactically placed question.
Witsit, can I give you the last part of my example, because I think it's very relevant.
No, man. I don't want to talk to you about the Earth moving up.
No, I mean, you don't want to hear it. Maybe you can finish. Maybe you can steal my position, but I think it's a pretty applicable and relative.
Why don't you let him ask his first, and then maybe you can do yours after?
Because I was in the middle of mine, but that's okay. You guys can do what you want.
I can steal yours real quick. The passenger is in the car. The car is moving. The passenger is inertial. The car takes a turn. The passenger's head hits the window, or does the window hit his head? Well, that's weird, because actually the window accelerated towards its head. His head was in the inertial state. It continued upon its direct path, and that's somehow analogous to dropping a ball on the earth. Now we can move forward.
That was excellent. I would make any modifications.
So we don't need you to reiterate it then, if it was perfect.
I'm not going to reiterate. I was complimenting on a good skill, man, and a good explanation.
Hell yeah, bro. All right, I'm asking you about this, though. So you always bring up space-time and stuff, and this is open to the room. Zanick, you don't have to it doesn't have to just be with you. I'm just throwing this out to the room, right? So, I asked what you think about modified Newtonian dynamics, but let me curate the question a bit here. Specifically as to, that's obviously an alternative theory of modified gravity, and there's many variances, right? Variations. So then all of them typically don't involve dark matter, right? And it's because there's this big issue with dark matter and how space-time needs it. So, do you agree that at the cutting edge of physics in your paradigm, there is a huge camp of physicists that are now strongly entertaining alternatives to space-time?
I don't know if there's a huge group of physicists, but I believe there are some.
Yeah. Modified Newtonian dynamics, my dude, right? That's a pretty big camp of people. And it's because we have some dark matter issues. And so do you agree that relativity requires dark matter to exist when it comes to what we've seen in the sky?
Yeah, I agree with you, because we shouldn't have galaxies run like pinwheels where everything is moving at the same angular velocity. It doesn't make sense with the accepted mathematical ideas and representations of gravity.
Right. So as it pertains to this discussion, which I heard was viciously circular yesterday, and I can already see why. Like when you're explaining, well, the Earth's going up, but it's not going up, but it's going down, but it's going up, but the baseball's reference frame, the person, all this stuff. And then you bring up space time, and you're like, a geodesic path, which is actually a straight line, so the Earth is actually changing direction, but it's not changing direction. All this, right? Like, you agree that all these explanations you're going to have to read.
That was a little harsh. Just to interrupt you for a second. You know what we mean by straight line. The straight path is the geodesic, even though it's curved with respect to another reference frame. But that's okay. You know that, and I think you're just saying you don't need your argument's just strong without that, but you can throw that out there if you'd like, but you don't need to.
Nah, bro, let's just move. Like, I've asked you, so you're saying the Earth is changing direction, but it's not changing direction, and you say exactly. So anyway, what I'm trying to, dude, bro, please, bro, I'm saying, do you agree you're gonna have to like revamp your whole interpretation here if your paradigm migrates towards a framework that moves past space time?
Yeah, if space-time isn't the answer, there's Lucy's got a lot of explaining to do.
Right, yeah. Because there's a guy, I'll drop an interview. He's an astrophysicist, a professor in Australia. He's just one of many guys. There's many, many people that push modified Newtonian dynamics. It just has some problems too. But anyway, he's explaining that he says that with over a sigma 5 confidence, they know that dark matter does not exist. And he cites things like dark matter halos, where there should be a reduction in speed as the galaxies collide, but they don't, which means there cannot be this substantive dark matter that's there. It would cause it to slow down, but rather it either maintains speed or speeds up as they collide. Yeah, so dark matter halo problem and stuff like that. But anyway, so he says he's over sigma 5 confident. That's as confident as you can be in terms of science and in this realm of theoretical physics.
Well,
Misidentified science.
You keep on throwing out the statistical value of sigma 5, and that's his opinion. I mean based on the statistics, he must have data, because those are data based values. He must have so much data that can give him that level of confidence, that R-square value for the data.
Yeah. He had someone's messed up. Yeah, he has a lot. He has like probably 20 papers. He has like probably 20 papers that he's written, but
what the hell?
You have to reset your mic, man. You sound like a.
You got to see a doctor. Is
that Jeremy?
No, it was Fuzzy.
Dude, Fuzzy, you're turning into a werewolf, bro.
Fuzzy, your mic was real bad. I muted you.
People so fast on these freaking gifts. That's amazing. Whenever something funny, the gift pops up. Could be something obtuse, and suddenly the appropriate gift will just pop on the freaking chat. It's amazing.
I just find it interesting. I want to throw it out into the room, right? It is interesting in 2023, bro, at the cutting edge of physics, what they are now coming out and saying, many people, is it looks like, well, we needed dark matter to keep relativity alive. But it's really not working out. As we go further and further on, this dark matter assumption isn't working. And it looks like we're going to have to entertain modified gravity theories to replace it. Now, there are some trying to integrate relativistic mechanics inside of it, like relativistic modified Newtonian dynamics, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I just find that interesting, right? Because if that's the case, well, we have pretty serious problems in your cosmology, man, because modified Newtonian dynamics doesn't work for a handful of reasons, including just the Big Bang itself. If you don't have relativity in space-time, you can't even explain like the fundamental aspects of the Big Bang. So it looks like this might be the end of the road for your universe model. What do you think about that?
Oh boy, suddenly within a frail hand swoop, he debunks 100 years of physics on a Discord server.
Well, no, don't you agree?
Why do you say that when you guys also say science? Well, your epistemology that you call science is subject to change. Now you're acting like
Yeah.
it's set in stone and that what Witsit's saying is like wrong.
No, I think
No.
there's not enough evidence to support that right now. I know there's inconsistencies.
That's
What we
right.
have to date
Double speaking.
has a lot of hold on, has a lot of predictive
It's not double
qualities. There's a
speak.
lot of data to support it. However, there are a lot of loose ends also, and we all know this. And there could be
Mhm.
a situation where all of this just doesn't work, and there's something else to explain
Well,
the
peep
Zenic,
this,
motion.
bro.
Zenic,
Let me
what
let me.
sigma level is it that dark energy is a real thing? What sigma level do you have that's a positive thing for being true?
I don't know
I
if
think
there's enough.
5 Sigma says dark energy is not in this conversation. So
Yeah, it's talking about dark
Dark,
matter, but I just
no,
want to
it's
point
dark
out.
matter, dark energy. What's the sigma versus the other side? You must have data that supports you that it is a thing. Beyond what sigma level do you have?
I think it's probably maybe one sigma.
So you're saying there's a more chance that it's not being true than it is being true, and
no,
No, that's
dude.
just not what one sigma means.
Listen, dude. Eric Verlinde is another guy. He's a mod guy, and me and Scott Veach both were into this guy a couple years ago because there's always claims that come out that because he had a test, he had a theory, and he had a model that actually didn't require dark matter, and it actually had positive tests, and the tests were actually positive in some respects. So it looked promising in some respects. But in other respects, it wasn't agreeing with already known physics, and it's the same with any Mond theory, including this other guy, because it's true that I've seen that interview where the guy's talking about the test, and he's talking about a test or an observation where they see that dark matter isn't in the test specifically he's talking about. It's like a 5 or 6 sigma verifiability that there's no need for I think it was cold dark matter or any dark matter, and the thing about these guys with the Mond guys is that these things are promising in that respect, but they also fall short in every other respect. And so
Yeah.
that's the
So
problem is that they don't answer the questions that get answered by relativity. And also, I just have to say this, that they don't do away, like you said it, you actually said this yourself just now, that they don't do away with relativity. A lot of the Mond theories incorporate curved spacetime. And so
yeah.
it's not like a lot of them don't require dark matter. That's true, but a lot of them still utilize curved spacetime.
Yeah. So to be fair, I actually said all of that, right? I actually specifically said that the Mond theories have issues as well. That's not the point. You're trying to explain a cosmological assumption that's incorrect, so there will never be a theory that works. That's not really the point. I don't really find it to be a proper approach to be like, oh, well, it can't be true, or relativity must still be valid because Mond doesn't explain everything relativity did. None of them are going to explain everything we see in the sky because your assumptions are wrong, right? So, and obviously you have to acknowledge that's a possibility whether you agree with me or not. And that's not really my point. My point is that it's gotten to such a degree, right, that there are many people that are looking into alternatives. And actually relativistic Mond is a minority, actually, right? And one of the primary ones proposed was in 2020. It's actually a huge minority to integrate relativistic mechanics, but that's not even my point. My point is just like you saw what it triggered in Zanick. Oh, this guy just refuted 100 years of science. Well, that's what I'm saying. Why did you revert back to that talking point? I brought up physicists, revered physicists in your own paradigm. Like, these are top credentials. These are top credential physicists. So, yes, that's right. Your own paradigm is entertaining stepping back 100 years. That doesn't mean that they're literally going to throw away everything we know. Assuming relativity, we've made tons of new observations, tons of new technology has discovered new things. We know a lot of stuff. We're not going to throw those observations away just because relativity turns out to be wrong. Okay, but our interpretation and explanation of it is being seriously considered to be revised, right? It's being seriously considered revision. So this is just a fact. It's just a fact. But my point is overall, like, do you think you guys can kind of pump the brakes on like the gaslighting approach of, oh, this guy thinks he's going to throw away 100 years of physics, when again, like, in your own paradigm, this is not my words. I don't believe in modified Newtonian dynamics or your universe at all. I'm just saying, can't we meet in the middle here? Where, yeah, it does look like we're on the precipice of some major revision within your own paradigm.
I'll meet you in the middle. I mean, it's the truth, man. Like me and Scott Veach both were big. I mean, he was almost fucking in love with Eric Verlinde, but I think he was just impressed that he has like this opposing theory. But I was, you know, I mean, there's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of extraordinary claims, and you get impressed by it, and it was promising. But like I said, and there's two things I want to say is one is that it is. People forget that it is a requirement that you have to encompass all of the explanations that the thing you're upholding or the thing that you're uprooting was, you know, in explaining. Like if you can maybe be able to explain one thing better, or you may be able to explain one thing that it can't explain, but if you can't explain the things that it can explain, then it's almost like it's like it looks impressive, but it's really not. It could be promising, but it's less promising than it looks. The other thing I was going to say is one thing you want to be aware of is that a lot of Mond guys, are really biased, and so it's kind of like Electric Universe guys. Like they a lot of them really like to claim that they're uprooting a lot of physics, but I think they really are biased. Just saying.
Yeah, but I want to point this out. Your mic's brother. Like, okay, this is the point that I'm making, right? I don't believe in any of it, but there is a huge problem here, and I will say this, dude. I find it interesting. It seems like say the heliocentric model or certain assumptions of like the Big Bang cosmology, right? It isn't held to that same standard that you just laid out. I forgot the technical name for it, but it's a very real thing. It's an approach to physics. You can't just uproot a theory of physics with some replacement that doesn't even address what your previous theory properly addressed. But it seems like when we talk about cosmology, that's not the case, because the geocentric position didn't require some unidentified dark energy mechanism to explain accelerative expansion. It didn't need that. So the heliocentric model couldn't even explain what the geocentric model already did. But it was able to be uprooted, right? So it is a double standard. It's just based on, we have specific end goals, and if a theory is aiming to satisfy that end goal, then it gets an advantage. Relativity is certainly the best. From your guys' paradigm, of course, you're going to hold on to relativity until some new theory comes along, can check all the relativistic boxes. But this is the part, this is for the intelligent mind that just wants to kind of understand what's maybe going on. This is just my opinion, but see, I don't think that space-time curvature is completely fabricated. Okay, it hijacked a real geometry of the background medium. And it actually hijacked it from Henri Poincaré, who actually proposed a Lorentzian ether alternative, but he came up with that space-time geometry. And he's the one that famously said, it is actually not the universe that imposes space and time on us, but rather it is we who impose space and time on it due to convenience, right? So anyway, that curvature, now imagine this. Imagine that what's called gravitation is actually an emergent property from a fluid background medium akin to an ether. And so what happens in a fluid-like medium? You have waving. Okay, well, waving could effectively be classified as bending and warping or curving. And so there is there's real applicability to the idea of the curving of the background. So relativity is never going to be completely wrong. It hijacked a real thing. It hijacked the bending and warping of the background. The problem is that they claim it's just space and time that are bending and warping. And in fact, it's not. It's actually an emergent property that has a reaction. So it has an action and a reaction within this background that's fluid-like.
It's basically like there's a treasure map. It's a real treasure map. And you've been looking at it upside down for years, trying to figure it out. And all we're trying to do is explain to you that there are reasons why the treasure map isn't working for you. But then
That's a great
we can
analogy,
talk about
though.
those reasons. Like we can talk about the reasons as to why and ups and downs and north.
Yeah,
Is he cutting out for me?
The whole
No,
point
no,
right now is
Yeah, he
he's
is.
breaking
you're
up.
looking
But yeah,
at
it's
it
a great
upside
analogy,
down.
Fuzzy.
That's the point. You're looking at it upside down, and the whole point is to try to tell you just look at it from this perspective. Then we can start running in a different direction. Does that make sense? That's why he's meeting you in the middle.
Can I ask Witsit a controversial question real quickly? Because I hear you say this a few times, and I just wanted you. It doesn't have to be controversial, but I just wanted you to elaborate on what you mean. I don't know exactly what you mean when you say this, but you talk about sometimes geocentrism and heliocentrism, and how geocentrism doesn't require dark matter and dark energy. And I just wanted you to validate that, like kind of what you mean.
Yeah, so like, okay, well, when we looked at them, we saw that all the distant galaxies moved in relation to the Earth. To explain it, why it looked like the Earth is in the center, we proposed accelerative expansion. But if the Earth just is in the center, that's why it looks like we're in the center. We don't need the universe to be accelerating and expanding in all directions. So if we don't have the Hubble constant, we don't need the cosmological constant, which is where we get the idea of dark energy. So we don't need that. We don't need that. Dark matter is a much more nuanced part. We'd have to talk about each observation that dark matter is invoked for, but dark energy is like very obvious on its face. We don't need a cause for the expansion.
I thought you might have meant something like that, and I just want to say that, like, in regards to what Hubble had said and what Hubble had meant and what you're saying, I think that both models. So one model requires that space is expanding at every location, everywhere, equally or whatever, and so you get not even dark energy. This you just get the expanding universe before you even need dark energy. You get expanding universe in that regards, and then the other model could be a geocentric Earth, but still everything is expanding away from Earth faster and faster the farther away it is. So it's like even in that model, I think you still require an expansion. It's just the expansion is in reference to the Earth, like because it looks like everything's expanding away from the Earth, which would be true if the entire universe was expanding everywhere, or it would also be true if only everything was moving away from Earth faster and faster the further you got. So I think both are still. I think it's required in both.
I don't think so, man. Like, to clarify, I don't
So
care what Hubble says. You have to specify why would expansion be required. You said it looks like it's expanding, so you're talking about redshift.
Yeah, like that. You're just evoking that in the first place. If I have a unicorn theory as to why it's doing that, that doesn't involve dark matter, why would you say that I have to include dark matter, dark energy into my unicorn theory?
Okay, let me back up on my argument then, because then what I'm basically trying to do is just show that with the statement a second ago, it isn't the case, because if you can discredit. So if you can just say, okay, well, we're just talking about Hubble's observations and we can just throw those out, well, then you can throw those out in both cases. So it's not if that observation is being substantiated or required or whatever, or observed to be true and respected, then it has to be so whether it's geocentric or heliocentric. It just means two different things in either case. So either you're throwing it out in either case or you're keeping it in either case. I just don't think it's true that in the case of heliocentrism you need to explain it. In the case of geocentrism, you don't have to explain it, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying, okay. The accelerative expansion, the entire universe accelerating and expanding, is an explanation for why it looks like we're in the center of the universe. Why does a geocentric model need the universe to be expanding?
But that's what I mean, is because the observation that Hubble had observed is exactly that. That it looks like from our location that the further away you look, it looks like things are moving away from us faster and faster. Or it was moving away from us, faster the further away you look. And so that makes it seem like we have a special location. And so that would be true if we had a special location. Or it could be so that's one explanation, is that we're in a special location where things just happen to be moving away from us faster and faster the further away they are from us. Or everything in the universe is the other explanation. The other explanation is that everything's expanding everywhere, and this is the one that we go with. But even still, though, if you go with the geocentric explanation, it still has from that observation, I'm saying it still has the requirement. It still needs an explanation for why things are expanding away from
You're
the Earth.
assuming a distance.
Well,
How did you
can
confirm
I
this?
just
How do
say
you
that?
know how far away you are looking? How do you know how
Oh,
far
come
away
on,
you're looking
Fuzzy.
at something?
You didn't
That's what
invoke a
I'm.
distance.
But
It doesn't
time out.
matter.
It's that time out. Forget asking him questions. You're affirming the consequent, dog, because you're seeing some kind of phenomena, and you're saying, "Well, that means that things are moving further away." You don't know that.
That's correct. That's the answer, dude.
Hey,
I
you're
don't
not
believe
following
that.
along.
Kosho, that's
Go
actually
ahead,
my
Witsit.
answer.
No,
Like,
go Witsit. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't believe that the redshift means that things are moving away. And what Hubble said specifically, which I could care less what he says, to be honest, other than historical value, but he said specifically, if our redshift interpretation is incorrect, right, then it could in fact mean that we are in the center and that we have a finite closed universe. Obviously, a finite universe is not, accelerating away from. So it would come down to, you would say, well, the geocentric model has to explain redshift. And I would agree that if you're going to try to replace the heliocentric explanation, then you would need to be like, well, what's causing the redshift? I mean, there are many things that could be causing the redshift other than it moving away from us, everything moving away from us, right?
like what, Witsit? What?
NASA, before
Attenuation
NASA,
of
real
light.
quick.
No,
Real
that
quick,
won't work.
let me just put a bookend on this. Let me put a bookend on this real quick because I just want to just clarify that because you said Eli's answer was valid and you're giving the same. But that's my point is that so originally, if you're saying that the heliocentrism requires an explanation here where geocentrism doesn't, what I'm saying is if in for geocentrism you can just throw out that data because it's just not valid data, then you can do the same thing for heliocentrism is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that this isn't evidence that is required for heliocentrism but not required for geocentrism.
No,
It's
this
either
is the
allowed to be
reason
thrown
it's
out in both
required.
cases or not.
Kosho, this is the difference, bro. This is the difference. When we looked out, the only explanation for why we look like we're in the center is that the universe is accelerating and expanding in all directions. That's the only explanation for why we look like we're in the center. The geocentric model would be because we're in the center. Yes, a geocentric model would still have redshift on the table to address, but that's the difference. The heliocentric model requires accelerative expansion to explain why it looks like we're in the center. Obviously, a geocentric model has an explanation for why we look like we're in the center because we're in the center. That means we don't have a Hubble constant and cosmological constant that we need. You can have many explanations. I have 2 books I just received in the mail that I'm going to start reading that are specifically about this. They're about the redshift anomaly. They're about the redshift misinterpretation. There are many explanations that can be proposed for redshift that don't require the universe expanding away from us. So that's the fundamental difference. Okay, attenuation of light, magnetic properties.
No,
both of them can do it.
Nope.
Why does it not?
Light isn't affected by magnets, and attenuation doesn't explain redshift. As you get further away, the more redshift. Sorry.
Then why did astronomers just come
Can
out
I
and
answer
say
his
that a
question?
star is blue shifting because of its magnetic strength?
I'm sorry, you overtalked.
Why did astronomers just come out and say that we thought a star was coming to us because it was blue shifting, but turns out it just has a really strong magnetic field?
Send me the link for that one.
Okay, no problem. And attenuation of light is an explanation even invoked in your own paradigm, right? Dust can cause dust can cause more redshift according to your own paradigm because of attenuation of light. So if there's light that's coming to us through some type of medium, it's going to attenuate proportionate to distance. And so that could cause redshift, as well as what I actually think is that we're in a giant torus field, and that means that there's centrifugal divergence away from the center, and that centrifugal divergence causes redshift, and that's going to be replicated in the lab, which means that you're in this giant torus field. That's why you see everything look like it's redshifting, because it is diverging away from you, and the stuff that's closer to you is closer to that convergent location, so you're going to get occasional blue shift that are closer to you. That's me explaining it with your distances, not even the specific distances, just that this is closer than this. If I assume you guys are right about what's closer and further away, I can explain it with magnetism. So this is the difference here is, well, in most scenarios, they're phenomena, right? Like redshift's a real phenomena from the way you guys see it. It's also a real phenomena within magnetism. It's a well-known phenomenon. It can be replicated.
Yeah, but have they ever shown that light moving away from us can redshift? Like, remember you were on that about that one time?
Well, they claim to have done that.
Like move a light away from us, let's see it redshift, or move it closer, let's see it blue shift. Can that be done?
That would be a baller's time to step in. I don't actually know if they have any specific experiment to invoke, but
they've done that a few times, right? First of all, I mean, okay. First of all, they have the tower experiment. There's an experiment where they do gravitational. It's gravitational time dilation, but gravitational redshift. But it's based on that there's time dilation and so they show the different wavelengths of the light, but also all speed guns are use this principle. All speed guns use the principle of redshift regarding moving away or moving towards something.
yeah, they do that. But of course,
we'll have to talk more about this later, Witsit, because I have disagreed with you. I said it to you about as I said, because it seems like you're in the car or something, and there's other people in here, and so we can maybe talk about it some another time. But I disagree. My whole point is just that in both, if you're gonna come from the stance of Hubble's observations being valid, not his conclusion, but just the observations being something that's valid or needs to be addressed, then I think in both cases it needs an explanation that that explains why things are moving away from us.
Okay, I disagree. I think that you're assuming things are moving away because of redshift. But I will say that I tip my hat. This is why I do like Kosho, because at least he tries to address my arguments that are clearly pretty damning if correct. Like when I say, well, the geocentric model would be significantly more viable. We don't have the dark energy problem. Everyone else just ignores that. But at least Kosho's addressing it. I certainly disagree with your assessment. And again, it's because I don't think we have to explain why things are moving away from us in the geocentric model, because I think that you're assuming they're moving away from us based on your interpretation of redshift. And I would encourage you to really think about what I'm saying. Real fast. With the magnetic field, you have centrifugal divergence and you have centripetal convergence, right? So you have the donut in the inside of the donut. So if you have a circle in the middle of a donut, you draw the lines around the donut diverging out from the center. At the same time, you have convergence in the center. It's like transposed, right? They're on top of each other. Well, that means as you're further out, you have this divergent property, right? And that's going to give you redshift. You'll get occasional blue shift as you're closer to the center of that magnetic field because there's a convergent property. And if it gets close enough, it would outweigh the divergent motion. And so if we're in a giant Taurus field, it would explain why we see redshift everywhere, predominantly further and further away.
I'll look more
real
to
quick.
that.
Yeah, I was just
really fast. Yeah, just really, like literally 2 seconds. That question you asked me earlier.
He brought up Ken Wheeler. He brought up Ken Wheeler shit, and you got horny, huh?
No. So it was in that video of ion propulsion. Check that one out. Like it goes over this stuff.
Okay.
Eli, I mean, listen, I'm not even sure they can show redshift happening or blue shift.
Yo, this is why I just take my shot, fam. This is why I just take it, because when I'm nice, it's been like 10 minutes, bro.
Well, it's been about 2 minutes, but yeah, Eli, go ahead.
No, it's been said, because with the I tried to get in the first time, but you took it. I was like, okay. Then I had a long conversation with my boy.
Yeah,
came back.
Go ahead.
This is your shot.
Not yet. So I agree with Witsit. I don't have to explain. Like, what you have a claim on the table. It's actually your conclusion is an affirming the consequent. And then so the guy's question back to Witsit was, well, so what do you say it is then? Well, my answer to that would have been, I didn't make a claim. What's wrong with that?
Well, it's true. I mean, you're right. You're both right. But all he's offering, if all they're asking for is an explanation, well, then we have explanations for all kinds of phenomena, but they have to realize that they're looking at the entire fucking map upside down first. Then we can get to those specifics.
And that's what pissed me off. He asked Witsit, And then Witsit, like 5 seconds in of him asking what he thinks, he's like, nah, not jacking it. Like, what the fuck did you ask for then, bro?
My question is, why are you fighting to jump into that? Like, come on, dude. Just real quick, I was picking on Die Slow because I know Witcher brought up the Pharaoh cell thing. I don't want to say, Witcher's bringing up Pharaoh cells. And then then Die Slow comes in and starts jumping in about fucking 10-wheeler shit.
So
That's what I guess. Is that in regards to the Pharaoh cell, Witsit, what you brought up?
regardless of what he brought up,
It doesn't just have to be in a Pharaoh cell. I'm about to find some articles for you. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get the other article NAS Force, so I'm about to drop the magnetic field from the stars article from sciencealert.com and then the actual paper, and then I'll drop some magnetic redshift papers.
Yeah, you need to rethink about what's causing this redshift because you don't even know if it's movement of.
Well, the first one is
What's up?
The redshift of the magnetic field, not the redshift causing the magnetic field. But nice try so far. Let's see the rest of them.
That's the whole. Well, bro, the redshift of the magnetic field. So you admit that there is redshift and blue shift inside magnetic fields.
Well, then again, but it doesn't say that the magnetic field causes the redshift. You fool.
Okay, so do you agree that there's redshift? Do you agree there's redshift and blue shift in magnetic fields? Yes or no?
So far, they said redshift. I have to read you only have the abstract. You don't have the entire paper. So
yeah, you might be the magnetic field that itself could be redshifted or blue shifted. That might not be the redshift of the galaxy or the star.
Okay, so here's the paper right here, just in case anyone wants to read it. So I dropped the PopSci article and then the paper. It says dead star's magnetic field tricked astronomers into thinking it was heading our way. The remnant of a dead star predicted the cannonball through the outskirts of the solar system is going to do no such thing after all. On re-examination, a white dwarf star just 36 light years from Earth named blah, blah, blah was turned out to be pretty normal. Its only claim to strangeness is its powerful magnetic field, according to a team of astronomers led by John Landstreet at the Armagh Observatory and Planetarium in the UK. So then I dropped that PopSci article and the paper. I dropped another paper talking about the redshift within magnetic fields within astronomical observation. And I'm going to drop a few more papers about redshift and magnetism.
But so, Kosho, are you just going to completely ignore what Elijah said?
I just want to point out, just so you guys know from within their paradigm, they have this issue like with quasars, right? Like quasars have way more redshift than things that are further away, right? And so they're like, wait, what's going on? And so people act like it's no big deal, and we know that just because quasars are so powerful or whatever. But no, it's been a problem for decades, and people have come up with they really wanted to find a way to push the quasars back to say, oh well, actually they're further away because they have so much more redshift and stuff that are further away. But what they're now saying is that it's based on the rotation of the quasar. So the rotational speed is so fast. Yeah. The rotation. And so I'm about to drop a paper here where it's talking about how that's intrinsically tied to the magnetic field. And anyone that's studied magnetism at all, which is difficult to do, honestly, because of mainstream academia doesn't even understand it. But anyway, there's a vortex in a magnetic field. And so they're now trying to slide in magnetism as the explanation for quasars having way more redshift, specifically the rotation within the magnetic field.
I gotta say this, dude, because first of all, I'm big into quasars and into AGN's active galactic nuclei. I think that there's a lot of mysteries that are maybe. I think that dark matter. Personally, I think dark matter could be explained by active galactic nuclei, but that's another story. But so based on the orientation of an active galactic nuclei, it can either be a quasar or it could be, different. It can appear differently, and so I do know that because of the size of a quasar, if you see it orthogonally or whatever because of the jets that are spewing out
Rotation.
and the speed that they spew out. It actually can be the redshift. Yeah, but the redshift on the actual quasar itself and on the jets that are spewing out of them can give you totally different distances because of the fact that they are so far apart and that moving at totally different speeds. So that is true, but they are like even if something's that big and that powerful,
Ask a
there's going
question.
to be a crazy magnetic field involved with that. So
Kosho,
Can I ask a
definitely is
question?
some.
Kosho, are you gonna
What?
affirm the
What?
consequent about quasars as well?
Well, I was
Yeah,
just
dude,
gonna
listen
ask
to me.
him how he.
I don't want to say nothing
No,
bad.
I'm not gonna use the same words. I want to get fancy. Um, how do you know the size or the speed of the rotation and the distance for that matter? But let's
Okay,
stick with the
that's a
size and
good
the rotation.
question, man. That's a good question because I don't have my head up my ass, and I'm actually using the evidence. So I could be wrong, and scientists who know more than me, astronomers, could be more
Kosho,
wrong.
do you
We all
not
could
hear
be wrong.
yourself?
However,
Kosho,
That's what I'm asking you. You're saying I'm using the evidence.
however,
Where? Oh,
the alternative that you're suggesting is to put my head up my
no, not
ass
all.
and put my head in the sand and not know what's going on. So
Okay.
I don't know what to
why are
tell you.
Okay,
you
look,
getting so
I'm
triggered?
moderating.
Why are you so
Please
triggered?
stop interrupting. What are you people doing? Okay, you have to let Kosho finish. Kosho, I think he finished. Now, Eli, go. That's unbearable, man.
Why are you acting like I'm telling you the alternative you have to take? Again, I'm tired of the, oh well, I can't say this, therefore what you're telling me is I have to say this. Put my head in my ass and blah. Who the fuck said that? All I asked you was, how do you know the size and the speed of the rotation? And so you said, well, I'm going to look to the science. Well, what the fuck do you know from them then? That's
Didn't
all
say
I
that.
asked.
What I said was I'm going to look at the evidence, Elijah.
I'm about to
And what
stand
I'm
or
saying
stand
is,
up.
I'm sorry to speak so cold and so
Okay, the
short with you,
evidence,
but
which is what?
I'm just telling you, Elijah, I'm telling you that I'm looking at the evidence and I'm trying to find out what
Which
the
is what?
mysteries are. I'm trying to find out what the mysteries are with the
Oh, here
quasars
we
and
go.
active nuclei. I think that there is a lot going on. And I think that if the
Wow.
parameters are what they claim to be and they're spinning as fast as they say they are and they're as large as they say they are, I think
Yeah,
they
but I
would have
asked
magnetic
you,
fields.
how do you
I
know?
think they would have magnetic fields that would give questions and give rise to questions that are interesting and that kind of thing. And all I'm saying to you is that I'm using the evidence of the observations that we have, and I can do that, or I can do the alternative, which I would claim is sticking my head in the sand and not knowing what's going on. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I can't ask you how you know or what they informed you of that would inform you of the size and the road, because I didn't hear shit about you telling me that. I just heard you repeat what you said the first time I heard it when I asked you the question. Well, before I even asked you the question. So all you did was say, well, I'm just following the evidence that suggests that it's this size and this speed and blah. What? Okay, that's very vague.
What's the
Expand,
evidence?
expound.
Pulsate.
What is the evidence?
It's the center of a galaxy. The mass comes from the fact that it's a galaxy. The speed comes
Yeah.
from the fact that it's rotating and pulsating. You can use the pulsation to determine how fast it's rotating. Okay?
Yeah.
You can get
This
more
happens in
details and
magnetic
find more shit
fields.
out.
This happens in magnetic fields, and so I just want to.
So smart.
I want.
I honestly know he's dumb. That's why I
Wait,
like fucking with him.
I just want to point out that like Kosho is a bit of an anomaly. He'll kind of entertain. Like, don't expect for like NASA page or anyone to like be honest about this. It's whatever. But the truth is, it's well known that quasars are an enigma. That they're not well understood. That they haven't been well understood for a long time. That they're not entirely sure what causes the redshift anomalies, and that some of the proposed explanations don't match based on the different orientations of different redshifts, the different sizes, power, magnitude, distances, blah blah blah. Quasars are not fully understood in the top levels of astronomy and astrophysics. This is well known. And I'll even read this part of the paper that I dropped right here. The origin and growth of magnetic fields in galaxies is still something of an enigma. So they don't even address magnetism properly on the galactic scale. Okay? But conveniently, they do. They look exactly like what we see magnetic fields do. They cause a vortex. And so there's a reason why they can't do this, because they can't explain the sustaining of the magnetic field in their model. But it's whatever. Now I'm about to drop another paper talking about the quote unquote photon redshift in a magnetic field. There's an endless amount of information about this. And I will also say this. I get that, like, Fuzzy and maybe Eli, you guys had this approach of, like, wait up, you're making claims. I don't have to answer your claims, and I get that. But I think it's beneficial for us as a group in 2023 at this point to start moving towards reasonable speculation to piece together a model at some extent to understand what's going on. Do we have to do that? No. But I've turned my approach where, like, people like Kosho and Chronic and JH and stuff, they're beneficial to us if we want to figure out what's maybe really going on in, like, an electric universe with magnetism. And if we want to try to kind of piece together what's really going on, then talking to them about all the observations and data and piecing together what it really could be and finding the holes is beneficial to us.
Yeah.
I think we're far beyond like refuting the globe. It's so dead
I
at this
agree.
point.
I think we're both right.
I agree with you so long as we don't have to use affirming the consequent, because that's bisexual. Logical fallacies can catch, anybody's faith. So
Here's 2023.
I don't care what the rhetoric is. But if we're gonna speculate,
but see, that's why
don't let it end in any fallacies. That's all. I don't care what it is.
But that's all. If all they actually ask for is an explanation, then hey, it's an explanation. That's all they have is an explanation too. So that's why I was prefaced like, well, if you want a speculative explanation only with no, here you go. And there's all kinds of stuff. And I love that Witsit is coming up with this stuff. It's great. But that's what I'm saying. You guys are still you still are not realizing that you're still having this conversation as if the treasure map is upside down. You still don't realize it's upside down. You have to realize that first. Really, even within this conversation, you've still argued that the treasure map is right this way up.
I'm just trying to piece together where we live. We got to move on past that. Dude, these people are going to say that the horizon is Earth curve, but it's not Earth curve forever. Okay. So previous results. I know some people in here. This is edifying for people that want to figure out what's going on. Previous results concerning the arising a tiny photon anomalous paramagnetic moment are also interpreted as a redshift, an analogy to the gravitational known effect. It is due to the photon interaction with the magnetized virtual electron-positron background with withdrawal transverse momentum from photons, and it's a polarization dependent. The photon frequency redshift implies a change in time, and a clock would go faster for increasing magnetic field intensity. Okay, obviously, when they say a virtual electron-positron background, they're just avoiding the ether. Okay, so there is a lot of evidence that what we call redshift is actually tied to magnetic properties. Okay, so all they have, when I start dunking on their model, and I start all they have is redshift proves it. You can't explain redshift, blah blah blah. So I'm going to pull it outside of their body, their little pseudoscience soul. Okay, we're going to pull redshift away from them. Because either we progress or we just keep going over the horizon with people that are going to doublespeak. In my opinion, to reach the masses, people want to know where we live. And I'm ranting, but I'll stop right here. I just want to say one more thing. It's actually an unfounded expectation to think that we can explain everything about where we live and everything that's going on in the sky is ridiculous. We live in an incredibly majestic place that was created far beyond our comprehension. But that's still the world we live in. Everyone was told that they do know where we live and we know all this stuff. And so in order to break cognizance of people, we need to satisfy that itch to some extent to get them to let their guard down. Okay, and that's why I think we need to take the next step where I can then go on huge shows and be like, oh, I got a model for you. Right, yeah. we need to just take it back from them, because we're going to stay in the corner saying nah, and it's interpreted as, oh, flat earthers can't answer anything. Of course they can be a flat earther. They just say nah. They're intellectually wrong and fallacious, but that doesn't really change anything.
Well, two things can happen at the same time. I cannot play their game of, well, what do you think it is? Because in the middle of a conversation about whether what they're saying is true or not, then is not the time for them to mask them not having an empirical answer, which they claim it's empirical. People believe it's empirical, but they're hiding the fact that it's not empirical by throwing it's called the porcupine effect. That's what salesmen do when you have a question and they toss the question back to you. Okay, so
what do you do?
Okay, there's that. That's fine. At the same time, nobody's stopping me from saying the sun is a culminated laser refracting through the dome or the flat top. But
then say that.
that's not going to come out unless somebody wants to have an intellectual conversation. So there's a time and place for everything. Right now is the time to shut them down.
Yeah, there's levels of it. Like there are certain levels of the rabbit hole, and I think certain things are good for people at certain levels of the rabbit hole. And I think we all need to have these different levels as sharp as they can be, for and all of these people are going to get it at different levels. That
you guys aren't talking about
everybody's
holes,
right
man.
here. That's the thing, and we're all all correct.
You guys are just talking about ignoring stuff. I give respect to what Witsit said,
Kosho,
because
we weren't talking.
I know, but it doesn't matter though if you don't have an explanation or you do have an explanation. If you're going to shut down somebody's explanation in lieu of nothing, like just not replaced with anything, then you're not saying anything. So I think what Witsit's saying, he has a good point that it's like, okay,
you're not saying
our explanation could be wrong, but still we should be able to explain these things that we see and where we are and this kind of thing.
This is the same person who said that that falsification is irreplaceable. You know what he said. Yeah, right. So he knows that, and he's still moving forward because yes, we need to I'd love speculation as to what it could be actually. And it's great, right? It's
the question is, what are you and Elijah saying? What are you and Elijah saying right now? Like all you guys are doing is shitting on the fucking chessboard and not replacing it with anything.
What I'm saying is, if I was at an observatory, or I had some type of high-powered telescope, or some radio telescope, I could very much stand next to my son, or stand next to my daughter, or stand next to people, and give them a story about what I think it is. I can do that. I may do that. If they ask, what do you think it is? Because you know what? One day my stepson did ask that. And I said, I don't know. Could be this, could be that. I don't really know. That's intellectual honesty. Not, well, the scientists, hijacking words that mean things to people, right? The scientists, they say this, and this is the best answer that makes people believe that what you're saying is a guaranteed fact. And that's wrong.
Speculating, everybody else. I feel like you're responding to something else, dude.
Here's the thing: is like if
you're responding to a conversation,
guys.
Dude.
Okay,
I'm not responding. Hold on, I'm not responding to something else. What kind of bullshit is that?
But what are you talking about? I'm literally sitting here telling you that what I think about quasars and active nuclei is different than what
blue stars and red stars are, or blue galaxies and red galaxies are, or blue quasars and red quasars are.
Dang, bro.
I may give them an answer. The fuck are you talking?
Guys, you gotta relax, man. Yeah, this is crazy, dude. I just got people temp muted. Everyone relax, please. One at a time, guys.
Well, this is the truth, right? So their model, like the way they look at the sky, they're not doing justice to the potential magnetic explanation. All right, so you have to know, and this is again, I'm like breezing right past all this stuff. I'm just going back to the edifying stuff. Like, you have to know if you're going to talk to anyone about this, because I know Jeremy, you asked about it. Like, they're going to see even these articles I'm citing, right? A lot of times they're like, we're trying to explain it, but it doesn't look like it quite works out. They have so many presuppositions of distances and what the galaxies are made of, and all these things, where they're like, and what they consider to be the magnetic field of that galaxy or whatever, where they're like, oh well, it can't be the full explanation, or it doesn't quite match up. We haven't figured out how to model it, right? But it's because they're trying to cram presuppositions down his throat. I'm just showing that even in their own paradigm, they will openly admit that magnetic fields have an effect on the redshift reading, right? And that your estimates of distance and stuff like that could be wrong. Your redshift interpretation could be wrong if not properly accounting for the magnetic field, which they admit openly that cosmological magnetism is an enigma. They don't understand it. They cannot explain it. They don't fully understand it. So that's the little that's the chink in the armor that they've gotten away with, is just to ignore magnetism.
And I'm trying to agree with you to some extent. I'm trying to say that, like, I've talked to Chronic about this, and I've talked to other people about. I actually talked to Professor Parks about this, and people disagree with me, or at least don't agree with my assumption, because I'm not an astronomer like they are, and so I know less than they do. But I just have assumptions about AGNs and quasars that they maybe have more answers to a lot of the questions we have elsewhere, like with dark matter. I personally think that, and this is like a hunch, basically. I think that dark matter can be explained by the excess exhaust from early AGNs and quasars. But that's my personal opinion or hunch, like I said. And I also think I've asked this question for years in this community, which is to the astronomers, which is like, what I don't hear a lot about the details behind the magnetic fields behind pulsars and quasars and neutron stars and these really fast the black holes and the really fast rotating objects like that with large masses rotating as fast as they do. I know that there's details that are known about them, but I mean, I just don't hear about it a lot. So I feel like that there's more to be learned about these things.
What's known?
And I have different opinions than mainstream science about it. I'm not sitting here telling you what they are. You're not listening to anything I'm saying, Elijah. What do you mean what's known? What am I telling you what's known? What are you talking about?
You just said things are known about quasars and other things that are known. What's known?
Well, Kosho's trying to have a meeting of the minds with me, and you guys are like raining on his parade.
I'm telling you, nobody fucking agrees with me, dude. I'm telling you, mainstream people do not agree with what I'm saying.
Right, Kosho, let me go to bat for you. He's trying to extend an olive branch of sorts and say that somewhat in this subject, he doesn't necessarily agree with like the mainstream take on things, and that there may be something to do with magnetism playing a more of a role, and blah, blah, blah. He's trying to be a part of the party, and you guys are like knocking his silverware off the table. We're like, no, you're not sitting there.
Yeah, no, I know, Coach.
It's really mean.
And I'm sorry if I was stepping on people. I'm driving, and I'm sorry if that was happening. I was trying to agree with. We're all of these different approaches are needed and correct, and all of the strategies depend. Like if you mentioned on the show, like if you're going on some show, a different strategy will be used depending on how that show operates. Versus if you're like you have 5 minutes on CNN versus you have 3 hours on this podcast, you're gonna have an entirely different approach to how to handle each and every situation. So all of these different things should or could be helpful. So we're all on the same page with that. So
well, you have to understand that they say that light experiences a red or blue shift as it passes through a gravitational field. Now they're proposing modified gravity theories, right? If you listen to the one guy that I was invoking a second ago, he literally says like gravity may be more akin to an emergent property due to the oscillations of a background field akin to the ether. Well, okay, now we've established that your idea of gravitation isn't necessarily correct even in your own paradigm, and it may be more akin to an ether. Okay, well then what's really causing this redshift? Right? What's really causing it? Because they're saying that the gravitational fields are causing it. Well, I think that they hijacked magnetism due to they don't even understand it, right? And there's an action and a reaction within a field, because that's what magnetism is. And they don't properly define it. So that pulls the whole freaking deck of cards out from underneath them, right? Like that's not how I should have said that, but you get it, right? Like if they don't have the proper understanding of magnetism or what they're calling gravitational fields, that pulls redshift down with it. Okay, now this is just a fact. I'm not misrepresenting their paradigm at all. Like I'm like kind of a nerd. I read through their paradigm. This is a real thing that's going on, right? So the problem is that the mainstream is not going to say that. They're not going to come out and tell the layman, we don't understand magnetism on the cosmological scale. We don't know. We may be wrong about redshift. Our understanding of gravitational fields causing redshift may be wrong. They're not going to do that, but that is the case. The scenario is set up for a replacement, and drum roll please, the replacement, in my opinion, that's viable is a giant torus field. Everything's intrinsically magnetic. What they're calling gravitation is an action and a reaction due to oscillations in the background. They hijack the bending and warping and the curvature of the waving oscillations in this background. What's called gravitation is just an emergent property. And I hate to break it to some of the flat earthers, there has to be some type of force that's causing the stuff to move around. Okay, even on a stationary topographical plane with everything moving around it, something's causing everything to move around. There is, in fact, some type of force in the sky moving things around us, right? That's just a fact. Whatever you think. Do you have to know what it is to debunk their model? No, but it is. There is something. There is something there, and it seems that gets overlooked by flat earthers a lot. Even on a flat Earth, something's moving everything around in the sky, right? There has to be something. So let's take a break from like, oh, I can prove that you don't understand your own claims or whatever, and be like, what is it? What maybe could it be? Like, have they hijacked a real phenomena and then called it gravitation, right? Because there's obviously something real going on there.
I like that. And while we're figuring that out, we can still ask them, oh, if you have the actual answers, please tell us. Oh, if you still waiting.
Well, they admittedly don't have the answer. That's what I'm trying to say. You got to kind of know. Kosho is being, that's why I'm kind of feel bad for Kosho in this conversation, because he's being pretty honest about how they don't have the full answers for this. So you don't need to give him such a hard time, because like from his side, that's admirable. That's more than you're going to get from most of them.
Sure.
Like when NASA jumped in, he was just ready to tell me how stupid I was and how we know relativity is a fact, and I'm such an idiot that I dare even question any of it. And we fully understand redshift and gravitation and relativity and all that stuff, but they don't. The reality is that they don't. So if anyone that's from their side is going to be kind of honest about it, like that's kind of a breath of fresh air. Yeah.
It's like they looked at the directions upside down. So out of their initial starting point, they took the wrong direction, and they've been going so long in that direction that nobody can say, "Hey guys, I think we're way too I think we missed a wrong turn 60 miles ago, not 60 years ago." Is not terribly helpful. But you're right. I hear you, and he is trying to be. Yeah. Anyway, I gotta go. Peace, y'all.
Later, bro. But Daiso, are you still in here, bro?
Yeah, I've been listening.
What is your take on, like, I'm completely speculating, but like, you know how obviously we have like the conjugate geometric expression that the magnetic field is comprised of, right? Like we have the centrifugal divergence and centripetal convergence, right? We have these conjugate geometries at play, and it's basically just a process of pressure mediation. And then we interpret this effect in some type of spatial extension, but it's actually just equilibrium from the non-Cartesian background or whatever. But what do you think about, like, so you have the divergent, so like the shell of the torus field, then you have that convergent motion transposed or superimposed, if you will, right? What if as you get further away from the center, you're going to see more and more redshift because the primary motion at that point is divergent, right? The convergent motion is going to be towards the center. And so if you get really close to that center point of convergence, then you're going to see some blue shift. But if you get further away, you're just going to see primarily redshift, right? Because it's divergent. It's moving out and looping back around. And so if we are on the Earth in the center of the cosmological torus field, then it makes sense to look out. And the further we look out, the more we see redshift because it's divergent.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense for sure. How to validate that? It's kind of a toughie.
Well, we need to try to test to measure the redshift properties precisely with interferometry or something of a magnetic field on a small scale.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people, at least in here, that wouldn't necessarily appeal to, the parameters we're going to lay out addressing the magnetic field, because it's, it can be fairly subjective when, looking at something on a micro scale to analogize something on the macro.
Well, that's how physics works, man. Physics is scalable.
I know. I get it. But to draw that connection, to segue from this to that, is difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, but bro, these are the same people that, like, if I change the weight of an object with electrostatics, they'll say, "Well, do it with my phone then," as if they don't understand that it's scalable and it would just require a lot more. They seem to think that physics changes when you get up to the weight of a phone. So if they don't understand that electrostatic levitation is scalable, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what's actually going on. I don't care if someone's like, Witsit such an idiot. He's got funhouse mirrors in between his ears. What a clown! Like whatever, pretender clown. Well, what an idiot. He doesn't know the difference in magnetism and electromagnetism. And then I say, wait a minute, well, if I don't know the difference, can you help me out? Like, what is magnetism? And then he says, I didn't make any claims. You just did. You said that I didn't properly understand magnetism, so that means you do. What is it? That's all a waste of time, right? Like, that's all a waste of time. I'm about to go on big shows. I want to be able to show visualizations of the magnetic field that we live in so people can grasp a visualization of where they live so they can let go of all the pseudoscientific cartoons that have been crammed down their throat. Either we play big ball, like big league ball, right, where we're like, let's wake everyone up, let's figure out what's going on, or we don't. And it's kind of to that point where, in my opinion, not only is Flat Earth about to hit the Overton window, we can actually lose the battle here as well. Just so everyone, just because it's hitting the Overton window doesn't mean we win. We can actually lose it if we're not a good representation to people whenever this happens. Then we may lose the battle. It may be like something that's hard to recover from. I think we now need to kind of get our act together and be like, okay, here's what we can establish empirically and factually, and we have some speculations that do account for phenomena. And I can assure you that if I sit down with the astrophysicist, he's not prepared for me to be able to explain like 99% of astronomical observations. And that's just a good thing. I'm talking a lot, sorry, but anyway, you get it.
I mean, remember back in the day when you would show like pictures of magnetic phenomena?
Yeah, like always.
That's fucking good enough, dog. Like nobody, I wouldn't argue don't do that because, I mean, when I look at what do you call it? When I look at comets and I have a picture of like, I don't know if they're called floodlights or what kind of lights they are at the, like, in the high buildings of the cities. I just like turned that upside down and I was like, that looks exactly like a comet. Like, who can deny that it looks like that? Like that in itself is an interesting thing to mull over. Nobody's saying don't do that. All I did was ask him what the evidence was, right? I mean, that shouldn't have been like a big deal.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, I agree with that. But you can see that, like, if you play it tactically, they can be beneficial. They end up showing you the glitch, like the mistakes, right? Like they end up trying to explain their position, and now you get to see their mistakes. That's why I spend so much time in here, because it expedites my ability to find the holes in the model.
That's the only way. Yeah, I mean, all of the shit I know came from like their. My bad.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've got a question about the electrostatics model. We've measured like electrostatic forces, haven't we? And they're not the same as the sort of forces that cause downward acceleration. So I don't see how electrostatics could explain the force of gravity unless you're claiming that it just like the constant force due to the charge.
No, you just don't get it. You don't get it, bro. This is going to be a long conversation if you're not getting it.
Yeah, I don't want a conversation. I just want to know, like, if you've measured the force as X, and if the force for downward acceleration is Y, then how do you make the X turn into the Y?
I don't really want to take over the whole room. I just talked a lot, bro.
Yeah,
so
I think go ahead. Well, I'm just saying Eli got interrupted, but
yeah, Eli, go ahead.
It's all good.
Yeah. Oh man, you're trying to trap me into this, bro. I'm gonna say my take one time. I don't want to debate it. Everything's about pressure mediation. Everything's just trying to seek its equilibrium based on pressure mediation. All objects that exist are electrostatic. All mediums that the objects are in are electrostatic. There has to be some physical mechanism that exchanges the buoyancy relationship,
right? And that is automatically intrinsically electrostatic. So we can manipulate that variable to show that we can make things go up, change their vector, change their weight. Since it's a variable that's always present, it has to be relevant, or like a relevant variable to why things go up or down, because it's always present. And simply put, everything that's got any charge tries to equalize at the ground. So there's just a bias down to where it can equalize.
Yeah, I understand all that, and that makes sense. But it's like saying, my wheel is rolling down the road because, it has the wind is pushing it, right? When I push that wheel to begin with, it's like saying there is a force that can do something to the wheel, but it's not necessarily the force that is doing that thing to the wheel. And if we measure one force as having, a certain, ability, like a certain percentage of force output from mass, and another force has a different one, like a percentage force output from charge, then why would we think the one that doesn't match up with the downward acceleration is the force that causes downward acceleration? That's the confusion I've always had with this.
I don't know what matches up with me. Like, things go, once they go down, we have an agreed upon average of how fast they go down. They don't always go down that speed. It's just an agreed upon average of it going down. And this is the primary determination of that on the surface level, is like the density relationship. So then the question is, what is causing that relationship? And obviously, if density is compactness of matter, then whatever is holding the matter together is the primary cause of density. And I've asked this question for 2 years and no one answers. If there's a density of an object and a density of a medium, and then there's a buoyancy that results from that, what is the physical mechanism that exchanges the buoyant reaction? What's the physical mechanism? Because that's going to be the cause of things going up and or down.
The physical mechanism is everything has weight. Things that weigh more than others with differential volumes will determine which one gets pushed out of the way. No different
What are
than if
the
I'm
eight?
pushing my way through a crowd.
What are the 8 variables associated with weight if you're going to identify?
Wait, real fast. You didn't answer my question. What's the physical mechanism that exchanges the buoyant relationship? If we have a density of an object, it's more dense than the air, it goes down because there's a buoyant force, quote unquote. What is the physical mechanism that exchanges that buoyant force from object to medium and vice versa? What's the physical mechanism?
Yeah, he's talking about the displacement. He's just talking about what displaces it. What's the relationship between the two things that allows it to displace it?
It's a pressure differential between the top and the bottom along its side of that object. Now that pressure differential, where the equilibrium is, and if there's a disequilibrium, that'll determine which direction it will travel. It's quite simple, actually.
Yes, there's a pressure differential and everything's pressure mediation, but what's the physical causal mechanism that exchanges that relationship?
Pressure is a force over area. Would you agree?
Yeah, what is actually exchanging the pressure mediation?
Let me build on that. I want to take like two questions, or just 2 acknowledgments or affirmations, so that we can then see what the causal mechanism is. For example, if I push you, what's the causal mechanism of me pushing you? Well, there's a force acting on your body created by my hand, and your body reacting to my hand. There's 2 forces. Those forces are equal, right?
Okay. Yeah. What's the cause of the pressure
if your mass
mediation?
is less, hold on. The force is the same, but if the mass is less, your body will move and mine will move into your body. If it's the opposite, it'd be forces being equal, then I would be the one.
Okay. We have an object that's more dense than the air. What's the causal mechanism of the pressure mediation?
That the weight of the object. Well,
no, that's not a causal mechanism.
It is. No, of course, because weight is a force. There's the weight of the air around this object, and there's the weight of the object itself.
And it's certainly not the locus of potential.
Can I just finish the thought so you maybe get an idea?
Well, wrap it up, bro. We don't have a 2-hour study session for Zanick.
I could have been done a while ago if you wouldn't interrupt.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you. So we have an object that occupies and pushes a less dense medium out of the way. And if the less dense medium obviously has less weight, then it will have a buoyant force on the object upward, because the buoyant force acts upward against the weight force, which is a vector down, and it will push up on it. And even though that object will fall down, it still has a force acting up on it. It just has a lot less force acting up on it than it does its weight, which is a force acting on it downward. The air around it being pushed out of the way is being forced up as well.
Okay. So weight is skipping a step. Weight is mass times gravity, of course, little g, which is the 9.8 meters per second squared, just an agreed upon average. That's skipping a step. I'm asking, what's the causal mechanism that exchanges the pressure mediation? So if an object has a certain density, that means volume over mass, compactness of matter. So what is causing the compactness of matter?
Now you're asking what is causing the compactness of matter. What holds these molecules and atoms together?
What causes the compactness of matter?
The causes is the molecular structures in those covalent
what's
bonds.
the cause? What's the cause
Covalent
that's
bonds.
holding them together?
Covalent bonds.
Which is what type of force, Zanick?
Magnetic.
You can call it electromagnetic.
It's electrostatic specifically. So we have a density of an object, and density is compactness of matter. So we have a pencil, it has a certain compactness. Well, that compactness is because there's electrostatic bonds holding that pencil together with a certain compactness. Now we have air. It also has a certain compactness or density, right? The pencil is more dense than the air. So that causes it to go up or down, right? Because of a buoyant force. So the primary causal agent is electrostatics, because that's what holds it together. That's what holds it together. And we have electrostatic transference or induction from objects to mediums. That would be the physical causal mechanism. Yes.
Okay, that is kind of illogical. It's illogical for this reason. There can be just as many bonds in either item, but if their structure, their molecular composition, orientation is different, that will determine its density, not the strength of the covalent bonds or any kind of bonds that are of this structure. It's only about the amount of matter per unit volume that's determining which way it moves. You can go back and say, well, is it these bonds? Is it the electromagnetism that actually is causing this? No, you can actually do tests to actually confirm that. And you can make your hypothesis, Witsit, and we can prove it to be the null, because that would not be the reason why things move in any direction according to the laws of gravity or
Okay, so the compactness of matter is mass over volume. That's density. So the cause of density would be whatever's holding the matter together with a certain compactness.
Why did I get muted? I didn't for anybody.
This is the part that even FED falls apart on, because they say it's all density, and I ask them what's the cause of density, and then I just get atoms. So what's the cause of density?
Come on, Zanick, you can say it again.
Well, I've been muting again. Why is this muting me? I'm being really mellow. I'm not interrupting anybody. Why?
Because in the middle of Witsit speaking, you scream no and you interrupt constantly.
Oh.
Yeah, mute yourself.
It's like Tourette's. Sorry about that, Joe.
Yeah, it is Tourette's.
Yeah, I think that's why you're here. To remind me of my Tourette's problem.
Yeah, you have a compulsive reaction.
I hear things that just okay. So yeah, the density is the reason, and the reason that there is density. This is almost kind of funny. It's gravity is the force. What's the force of the cause of the force? The cause of the density is the molecular structure, and that gets even more complicated. Why these molecules are oriented the way they are? What are these molecules made of? These are made up of atoms, and each atoms have different densities. Why do they have different densities? Because they have different mass of protons and neutrons, and also a number of electrons. That's what determines these things to be either more dense or not. Just take an atom, for example. Let's take it. In fact, that's the best way to do it. Let's just have hydrogen molecules and oxygen molecules in a big vat. How do they orient themselves?
So it's just geometry. It's just geometry, how they stack themselves and
no, the geometry
together.
of the stacking. No, not the geometry of them. Just geometry. It's geometry of how they actually bond together. What do those molecular structures look like? Are they lattice? Are they lattice structure? Do you understand, right? That lattice structure.
Is there volume within that?
Hold on. You're in trouble, because I'm going to start giving you some information that you might want to need and might want to understand, so you can understand why these objects are denser than others. So you can understand a lattice structure is different than maybe a random coupling of molecules.
Yeah, no duh. Are you saying that when people interrupt, they know they're in trouble?
No, the way he interrupts, because he does this whenever I start giving the answer to a question.
You need to
just carry
self-examine.
on, bro. Like we asked one specific question.
That's one of his
you
tells.
just go down this long ass rabbit hole, bro.
It's all good. We can move on, bro. It's always a long conversation, and I've been talking. My answer to the guy's question is, bro, I can take a scientific approach. I know that there's a variable that's always present. There's not one object that exists that's not electrostatic. So I can manipulate that variable, and I can make things go up or down, or change their weight, or change how fast they fall. So therefore, I've directly manipulated an independent variable to verify that it is a cause of the effect of things going up or down. Okay, so that's just a fact. It's just a fact.
That's not a fact. And I'll tell you why. You've just introduced a force, and I commend you for doing such, and you saw the result of adding that force. It doesn't mean that is the overriding factor of why things move up or down. You're delusional if you think that you've proven anything. You've just introduced a force,
doesn't have
caused
electrostatics
results,
involved
and
with
now
it.
claim victory. It's kind of crazy.
I didn't add a force. I manipulated it.
How did you manipulate the force?
What was electrostatics already there?
Electrostatics is everywhere.
Okay, so then I didn't add it. It was already there.
But how did you manipulate it? Did you add it to something?
No, I increased the charge of the medium, and then it transfers to the object. Okay. And this alters the pressure mediation, which causes objects to go up and or down.
Oh boy. Okay, so I'm gonna increase the pressure mediation by increasing a set of molecules that I'm going to accelerate to a high velocity, and they're going to impact on this object and actually cause it to rise as well. So now I've done the same thing you have. I've introduced a accelerated mass of atoms or molecules, and because I've accelerated them, they're making contact with some object, and they're making it move. So what? That doesn't prove anything.
You actually added something that wasn't there, though. I just manipulated what was already there.
How do you manipulate static electricity? How do you manipulate statics? How do you do that?
Yeah, you can use a Van de Graaff generator. It has a little friction belt, and then it generates charge.
And how does a Van de Graaff generator develop the charge?
I just said that. I just said how.
You just said that, dude. Friction.
What do you know? We just now introduced some other power source. We increase the power by friction, and we end up having a static electricity being generated, which actually is moving. Can I finish the sentence without being interrupted? And now something is moving upward. Big deal. I could do the same thing, same type of analogy with air, with any other types of matter. You're not proving anything. You're deluding yourself to think that you are.
See, you have to resort to attacks, right?
Well, no, it's kind of silly.
By dissing.
Yeah, this is your talking point's been the same for 3 years. Your talking point's been the same for 3 years. You just added a force. I didn't add a force. It was already there. It's literally what holds the matter together. It's literally what holds the medium together. There's a reaction between these two, okay? And there's a reaction between the object and its medium. That's what everything's about. The reaction between the object and the medium.
You align the ions. You did things to increase the charge, because the charge was already there, but you said you used a Van de Graaff generator to increase the charge, and you aligned it in such a way where there was a force acting on these objects. There's no doubt that this would work. Yeah, you're right. We have talked about it. That's why I can stick a balloon after I rub it on my head and stick it to the wall. I can have a force that attracts that balloon to the wall because I have increased the charge, or I've aligned the charge paths.
Okay, so I didn't add it. I manipulated the variable, which is what science is. You manipulate independent variables when controlling other variables to establish a cause and effect relationship.
Does it take energy to change the charge?
What is energy?
The capacity to do work.
So energy is an ability?
Yes. It's a measure of the ability of...
Abilities are attributes.
How much
They're not
work it can do.
Zanick.
Energy is strictly the capacity to do work.
Can I manipulate any variable without energy?
You're so caught up in this manipulation of an independent variable. I love this. I mean, Quantum Eraser left a stain on all you guys' brains.
My guy, that's science, dude. QE fights this tooth
I know. I know the
although
science. He doesn't.
Although ironically, Huey messaged me a few years ago and he said, "I'm not a density only guy. Never have been. Here's some electrostatic citation." But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Nothing to do with him.
Can I respond to that?
It's just science, bro. It's
No,
just
it's not science,
bro.
because he doesn't understand the independent variable hypothesis relationship, and I've gone over this many times with everybody here. You want to talk about manipulating an independent variable? What is it going to show? What is it going to do? What's the purpose of it? Well, we know the purpose of it. It's to see an effect on the dependent variable, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to see, what the dependent variable is. In this case, what is the dependent variable? Why don't you tell us? Walk us through the science.
You're not trying to see things going.
Why don't you break it down?
You're not trying to see. Buddy, you have a problem, bro. Like, you're not trying to see
what. I'm trying to help you understand this.
Dude, calm down, man. You're not trying to see what the dependent variable is. You know that going into an experiment. The whole point is that you're trying to establish.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I hate when I get misrepresented. I didn't say that.
You have a problem,
variable.
Like,
you're
going to force me to disengage, dude. Oh, now you can control yourself? Oh, I'm just saying, like, well, obviously we have an observable phenomenon. That's what we call our dependent variable. Like, science, and I'm not even big on this real rigid dogmatic thing. I think it can limit how we learn things. But obviously, in a very simple aspect here, we see things in the world and then we want to try to figure out what causes them. We want to explain them. Science explains, math describes, science explains. We just see things and we're like, I wonder what causes that to happen. And then, like, you know what? Let's guess that this causes that to happen. And what we do is we control every other variable that we can find, which is why technically you can only prove a cause, not the sole cause definitively, because you may be a variable you don't know. You control every variable that you know about other than what you think causes it. And then you start to vary that and see, is this changing the effect? Because if so, we've established a cause and effect relationship. It's very simple. But I knew this was going to happen. We were talking about how we live in a giant Taurus field. It was way cooler earlier.
Talking about the Taurus field generated by the sky, my brother?
Yes, sir. Yo, check this out, dude. Tell me what you think. Is what I was trying to run by dice. So like the magnetic field, you have the centrifugal divergence and you have the centripetal convergence. So you have like the looping out donut, and then you have the inside of the donut. So if you're looking out in the sky, right? If you look super far away, you're going to see redshift because the motion is divergent. It's diverging away from the center, then looping back down. If you get closer to the center, then there's a convergent motion. And so if you get close enough to that convergent motion, you'll see blue shift. But if you get further away from the center, then the primary motion is going to be divergent, moving away, looping around. So you're going to get redshift the further out you look.
Yeah, the electromagnetic retardation would follow the path.
I was going to say it.
Would follow the path of the field. Ken Wheeler has a video on that. I can pull it up real quick. Give me a second. It shows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, bro, we do have a model, bro. Our model actually is the only thing that works.
This convergence in the center of the Taurus field, would that mean that there are galaxies that must necessarily be hitting each other?
What? No, dude, no. There's.
So you've got the divergence on the outside, and then the convergence on the inside. And at the convergence point, wouldn't that mean the galaxies are getting closer together and hitting each other?
There's just a vortex in the magnetic field, which just causes everything to rotate. But they're within an energetic field that's diverging and converging closer to the center. That's going to affect your perception of light through the field. The rotational.
Yeah, so that's explaining the light, but then there's.
That's what redshift is.
Sorry, keep going. I didn't know you.
Redshift is light. Right?
Okay, so yeah, but other observations would debunk that model, like the observation of galaxies not colliding when you look at blue light galaxies.
No, I just explained that the cause of the motion is the vortex within the field. What the divergent and convergent properties are doing is changing your perception of the light through that field.
Yeah, so if you look at like the most red galaxies, and then you go through the whole looking towards like the bluer galaxies, then you should be able to see that the red galaxies should be moving towards blue galaxies, and they should be moving closer together, converging as that happens.
Bro,
if it's a Taurus.
You're talking about two pieces of CGI coming closer to each other. Catch up here. What?
No, but that like, is there like a language barrier? Like, can someone else say what I'm saying? Like, there's a vortex in a magnetic field. Okay, just like there's measurably an ether drift in a preferred direction of light, which we know you don't like. But there's just a vortex. But what I'm saying is, so when we look at you didn't
it's reference frame.
So stop. When we look out and we
I did
look
debunk it. If the thing receiving the light is in motion, then it's in a different inertial reference frame. So I debunked it.
They're both in motion in both directions, but it's a preferred direction. You haven't caught to that yet, but we're trying to stick on the vortex part. There's a vortex, and this causes the motion. Everything moves around the Earth. There's a vortex. But we're talking about, why do we see quote unquote redshift in the sky? We're talking about, well, you're perceiving the light through this field. This field has two primary geometries. It's centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence, the conjugate geometric expression. You have both of them. As you get closer, the primary geometry is going to be convergent. So you're actually going to be perceiving the light as whatever these lights are, vortexing around the Earth. Right, you're going to be perceiving that light through the field, right? So based on where they're rotating around us, how close they are to the center or the convergence, it's going to alter how you perceive the light, hence redshift and blue shift. So now the geocentric model is the only viable model. It can actually explain everything.
Yeah, but light and magnetism don't interact. So it makes no sense again.
Okay, well, you don't seem to understand. It's about how you perceive the light. Secondly, light is electromagnetic radiation, right? So you can say it doesn't react, but in fact, it is actually a modality of the same thing. Well, you can talk to your own
but it doesn't interact.
I guess you need to talk to your own paradigm astronomers, because they say that the reason we just saw a star blue shifting is because it has a strong magnetic field. So.
Okay, but like magnets and light don't interact on Earth or anywhere we've seen. I think you can do it on like a nano quantum scale or some bullshit, but you can't do it just as we see it on Earth. So why are you assuming that something we can't see on Earth is happening out there in space?
No, we literally can't do it on Earth. I just dropped an article a few minutes ago showing the photon redshift based on the magnetic field. Obviously, I don't believe in photons. It doesn't matter.
Ken Wheeler demonstrates it with a stationary magnet.
What time was that thing dropped so I can read it?
15 minutes ago or something.
What were you saying, Alan? I wanted to hear that.
I said Ken Wheeler has a video doing it as well, like demonstrating it. I linked it earlier, and with the timestamp.
Which one is it? Is it the one where he's got like a crystal that he's illuminating light through, passing it through? No.
No, he's got the what's it called, a ferro lens or ferrocell or whatever, and a neodymium magnet.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's at 36 minutes after the hour. That's it.
Yeah, it's a great demonstration of the Stark and Zeeman effect. So the effects that we're talking about too, they're actually known and well discovered prior to, Einstein and all that. I think it was like in the early 1900s. It's the Stark effect and the Zeeman effect. So like they know that magnetic fields and electric fields can induce spectral shift. Like they know all about it. So like
yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's just like, to argue against it, it's like kind of crazy because it's already established and well known.
Yeah, but I'm just getting excited because I can feel we're on the precipice of such a slam dunk. It's so bad. So like, yeah. I know that you guys are on board with me with trying to make a model because like obviously it's time to progress and not just talk about how the horizon is physical but not physical at the same time. So like, yo, bro, like, okay, so we have what they say is that a gravitational field affects redshift, right? Well, check this out. So I say that the bending and warping of space-time isn't entirely inaccurate, right? They just hijack the geometry of the background field. meaning what they call gravitation is actually an emergent property based on the oscillation of the fluid-like background medium. Gravitation is actually an emergent property of the oscillating background. So there's an action and a reaction. So if you have waving or oscillating, well, you have bending and warping and curving. Just like they hijacked Henri Poincaré's actual geometry, and then he had a Lorentzian ether version of that geometry. So they hijacked that. So they're saying, oh, there's redshift directly relative to the gravitational field. Well, it's not entirely wrong. What they're calling gravitation is actually the emergent property of the oscillations. So yeah, we had the redshift and blue shift would be directly tied to being perceived through the oscillating field, right? So they hijacked it, bro. That's what this all is. That's why it's lasted so long. Is it's got a little seed of truth mixed in there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Dude, if you can, no rush on this, bro, but if you can send me anything you have on the electromagnetic retardation of red and blue shift, you may already have done it, I don't know, but no rush on that. But I'm really trying to like iron this out and then apply it to astronomical observations.
Yeah, I got you, dog. So the big thing with the Eddington experiment was that they were also doing gravitational redshift observations with a spectroheliograph at the same time, and they were trying to establish a cause and effect relationship with the bending and warping of space-time. Somebody's hot micing, so they were using Venus transits and other stars that were passing the sun, and they never got any redshift to correspond with any so-called starlight displacement or anything like that when there was transits. So when the Eddington thing went down, that's why they faked it so hard, because they had to get everyone to believe that this mathematical coordinate system that describes bending and warping distortions, and then they attribute physicality to it by saying that it causes gravitational redshift and the bending and warping of, like, it alters the geodesic path of a photon as it travels, right? So like there has to be an energy exchange mechanism with the background in order for the photon to phase shift, right? So for the wavelength and frequency to change, similar to how Doppler shift works in classical mechanics, right? So like the medium is compressing the wave. So when you get the high pitch, it's because it's been compressed by the medium. When you get the low pitch, it's being slowed by the medium. So you're getting it at a delay. So you're getting a delay in between the waves. So similar mechanism being exchanged with the molecules of air with sound. So, but the same thing with the vacuum of space and light and all that. There has to be a medium for there to be for them to even describe redshift and all that stuff, right? So I linked it earlier too, and I'll link it again. But there was a paper about how the story that we're given about gravitational redshifts and the predictions of it are completely inaccurate, and like it's a long history of mispredictions, changing the calculations, swapping out different metrics, getting new calculations, updating it, et cetera, and then finally we get this like polished version that they like looked up in the sky, split a light beam with a with the Pink Floyd album, and then just analyzed that, and then found out that Einstein was like dead on balls accurate. But that's not the case at all. That's just kind of like the fabricated history story that we get now. There's like a long history of it that goes on where the whole thing is basically they had to convince everyone that space-time curvature had the capacity to facilitate this energy transfer mechanism to get everyone fully on board to abandon the ether framework and all that. And that's why the Eddington experiment is so pivotal, because the other two experiments, so-called, are just calculative, assumptions. There was the perihelion precession and the other thing, I forget. But those didn't really count. But the Eddington observations with the displacement of starlight was the big one, because it was going to establish that cause and effect relationship. So they actually have no cause and effect relationship ever in history. And then I went over the Pound-Repka, Pound-Snyder, and all that stuff. They make no distinction between Einsteinian effects and classical wave mechanics at all. Everything tends towards an ether background, and no experiment has solely ever distinguished between classical mechanics and Einsteinian, relativistic effects.
Boom. Yeah. So they hijacked the classical wave mechanics of the ether. Dude, so have you heard where they'll bring up some 2018 supposed measurement of this?
No. Of redshift or whatever from starlight displacement?
Yeah, like supposedly redoing Eddington's observation in 2018 or something. I don't know.
No, I think I did
Yeah.
hear about that once, but yeah, I can't remember, but
I
I think I did.
Yeah. So basically, just to summarize that, like they hijacked the classical wave mechanics of a background, an ether, and then they claim. So yeah, like what's so funny? So basically, what you're saying is they actually need the classical wave mechanics of a medium to even invoke this effect, and then they just skate past it as if that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then they just tell everyone, like they just dazzled everybody with the mathematics because let me link you this paper real quick. So this one right here. So Zach was talking about this on Globebusters a couple of times. This is how Maxwell changed Ampere's law and all the other Coulomb's law and the other stuff. So basically, what he did was he changed the way that they used to look at how electromagnetic propagation happened, where the electric field was being carried by some sort of charge potential, and then that the interaction with that would generate the magnetic field, and then that would induce the electric field by interacting with that charge potential that induced it to begin with, right? So what Maxwell added to the equations was basically saying that, hey, you don't need any charge potential to do that. The electric field can just self-induce a magnetic field and carry itself in perpetuity forever. And so from that framework is really the beginning of like where they started to disguise the ether, because all radio wave propagation is etheric. All radio wave technology, all that shit. All that stuff is etheric technology. Like all radio wave propagation is based on that fundamentally, and then he just disguised it mathematically, and then Einstein, they came along with that framework and just attributed, etheric effects, interactions with magnetic fields, interactions with physical phenomenon. Like electromagnetic retardation is indistinguishable from relativistic effects. So, like how would you ever know, right? So if you just teach people the ether doesn't exist and that time is actually slowing down and distorting and space is contracting, at the same proportional rate, then you really just created an etherless society where you can have people working with this technology and doing calculations and never really questioning the fact of like how the wave is propagating or why,
Dude, Alan just like silences a room of Glovers. That's awesome.
It's like paper, backup, other paper, further paper, and it's like questions. I didn't think so.
No, it's really fascinating and elaborate, man. And like the struggle that they went with to get all the physicists over history to accept relativity theory and establishing the mythology of covariance and all that. Like they put in a lot of work to disguise the ether. Like it's no wonder that like we're at this state now where we're dealing with people that are like, yeah, but like, aren't you in a different reference frame? And it's like, nah, dog, you just got straight hypnotized.
Yeah, now they're coming back and like reintroducing it. So the reason they don't like Alan is just a barrage of hostile witnesses.
Well, I still haven't heard a good answer to the question that, like, if the receiver is in motion, then why wouldn't it take longer for the light, no matter where it was emitted from? Why wouldn't it take longer for the light to hit that receiver?
Oh, dude, bro! Like if something's moving, if a receiver's moving in an eastward direction and a westward direction, according to relativity, the duration should be the same.
How can we know?
What?
Not according to relativity. No, relativity is just like the speed receiver is in motion. Like the distance will increase from the time when the light was emitted to the time where the light was received. That's just necessarily true. If you
you're breaking up.
Look at every other thing that's in motion.
Is he breaking up?
Then wouldn't that mean that light can still be the same speed? It's just that the calculation is different due to distance. We can try this another day because I've done this a few times and no one's ever answered.
Well,
Like,
that's a
answered.
mischaracterization because I answered you multiple times and had to walk you through like the speed equation like 10 times. They both told me that they've walked you through it multiple times. I just walked you through it again. So that's cool. But before we go back into your misunderstanding of relativity and your own paradigm, do you have anything to say about what we were talking about? Which is how they hijack classical wave mechanics, which requires an actual medium to even invoke the redshift causal claim, but they just ignored that and then hijacked the classical wave mechanics anyway.
Yeah, I don't see any evidence that they had to hide that you need a medium for light to propagate through.
Like that they have to use classical wave mechanics to even invoke the explanation.
I don't care. You don't need a medium for light to propagate through. No one's ever shown that to be the case.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Do you have any
like
take
all the
on,
fancy shit, all like the papers? None of that matters because you don't need.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're just saying that though. You're just saying it, right? Like all the evidence.
Isn't it true? Like,
no, all the evidence is that a vacuum chamber is not empty. There's an abundance of evidence. If you're still denying that the vacuum chamber.
Well, what's in a vacuum chamber then?
Well, do you think a vacuum chamber is nothingness?
No, but there is bigger gaps between the particles. So if you need something
in between
propagate through there, like maybe sound or something like that, then changing the gaps between the particles would necessarily either change the speed of light or would mean that it must propagate a vacuum chamber. Yeah.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but this is dry.
I would one more time. Okay, just one more time. It'll take me 30 seconds. All right. So if I shoot a bullet and I'm standing at like one spot, and let's just assume this bullet has the exact same velocity, and someone is running away from me, will it take longer for the bullet to reach where they were or where they are now?
I completely change
Are you analogizing this to light right now? Because I thought light has a constant rate.
Well, that's what Einstein
So I'm saying the bullet has a constant speed. So the bullet has a constant speed. You shoot the bullet, and someone's running away from me, like a direction away from me. So that means the distance the bullet has to traverse while that person is running is increased, even if it's only by like one step. It's still increased from where the bullet started out, where they were when it started, and where they are when it hits them.
This is so wild. I remember talking you through this. I still remember where I was. I remember what gas station I was pulling into to get gas. I remember all of it. And you're back here pretending it never happened. So speed equals distance over time. If speed is constant...
Just answer my analogy, Witsit, and then I can go away. It's as simple as that. Just answer it and I'll go away because I'm done. I've got stuff to do. I just want you to answer it instead of doing the whole spiel. Does it make sense that my analogy would mean that the bullet must travel further? Yes or no? It's a yes or no.
Yeah. Traveling further and increasing in speed are different things.
Further.
That was tough.
And that would mean that the time it would take would be different to get from the emitter to the receiver, right?
Okay, yeah, because the speed would be the same. So if you increase the distance, the time would increase.
Exactly, the speed would be the same. But Alan's entire argument is that there is an invariance of speed, but he's just incorrect about that. He's assuming that the speed is based on where the person was when the bullet was fired, whereas the speed is calculated from where the person is when the bullet hits them.
You don't get it, dude. You don't get it. The distance is the same in both directions, but the time is different, which requires the speed be different. Do you understand?
No, it doesn't require the speed be different.
Oh, wait. If the distance remains the same...
Because you have contraction.
Hey, listen. If the
you have Lorentz contraction applied to that because they're in different inertial reference frames.
If the distance remains the same, but the time increases, that requires the speed to change.
If the No, Lorentz contraction can explain that for GPS, but
Lorentz
if you were looking
contraction's
at
a
something
second
like
order effect.
what I was talking,
GPS GPS in a one-way
I'm just
measurement is
stationary. It's actually in reference
listen,
frame
guy,
2, which
listen,
is in
listen,
motion. Then you have to apply Lorentz contraction.
Oh man, this guy, bro.
listen. The distinction here, though, right, with GPS especially, this is why it's particularly easy, is because length contraction is a second order effect. The measurement taken is a first order effect. Okay, so your presupposition to apply a second order effect is invalidated by the fact that you trying to apply the second order effect to reconfine the speed of light to a fixed speed when it's shown to not be. That is completely like irrelevant. It's a math trick. It's something that you're believing in and not even fully understanding what's going on and what the argument is.
Of seeing too far, you're just missing a part of the calculation.
Listen,
you
if
guys
GPS,
don't put in
okay,
refraction
sorry,
or the height
go
of
ahead.
the observer, and you don't put in length contraction either. So what you're saying is that, yeah, speed is variant, but only if I don't add in part of the calculation, which is motion would mean a different inertial reference frame, which would mean you'd have to apply contraction to it.
No, we're in the
Negative,
same
Ghost
reference
Rider.
frame on the Earth. We're in the same
No, you're
reference
lying.
frame everywhere.
You're not with it.
Bro, we're on the same reference frame everywhere on the Earth, my guy. Okay, so there is no direction preferential of length contraction due to the rotation of the Earth within your own model. So if you don't know that, you should go relearn it and then come back to us.
If I'm in one car and you're in another car, we're in different reference frames.
Oh my god, dude. If buddy.
Isn't that true?
Yeah,
like, isn't that factually true? If you're in a car going 98 and I'm in a car going 96, then we'd be in different inertial reference frames, even though we're both on the Earth.
Are you just going to completely ignore what I said? No matter what direction light's going on the Earth, it's considered to be in the same reference frame. Additionally, according to relativity, light is constant. Light is constant in all reference frames.
Oh, that's
all right, dude. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to back up,
it's
dude.
not.
You're roboting. You're interrupting. You're delayed. You're just saying ignorant things. It's just a barrage of really annoying characteristics. Alan, you got it. I tap out.
Yeah, I'm straight, dog. That was as far as I'm willing to take it because, like, I don't like repeating myself over and over again.
No, I wouldn't have engaged him at all, but everyone.
I mean, you got to give it the old college try for the audience, right?
Nah, not
it's the reason. Well, that's why they like things like I keep bringing this up, but it's never addressed. That's a very useful tactic, because it makes you feel like, oh my god, now I have to address it.
Right,
I'm a bit
totally
peed off there
suckered you in.
because Alan, what were you going to say when he interrupted you? Because I was really you were sort of in a bit of a flow, and that pissed me off a little bit. Thanks, dogs.
Oh, it's all good. I can't remember.
Can you remember?
What was I talking about? What was the subject?
I think the light going in different directions. I think that it was after that. I can't.
Well, Alan, just trying to briefly break it down to him what the argument is all about. If you want to,
Yeah. So the way GPS is designed, so not to undermine Brian's logic, but the way that they design GPS is that it's a time interval system based on the fixed speed of light, right? So when they derive a distance using that, so when they take the snapshot of a time of when a signal was sent and when it was received, that distance derived based on the speed of light, and all that, and all the laws of physics from Einstein and all that, right? That distance derived should be an invariant transformation uniformly to any coordinate system. So it shouldn't matter if it's a spherical transformation, if it's a local, planar coordinate system, cone, cylindrical, triangle. Doesn't matter what coordinate system you transfer it on. That distance has to be the same if the speed of light is the same. And what they show it under transformations because they take the initial, and this is the crazy part too, right? So they take the initial measurement in the ECI reference frame, which is a stationary non-rotating coordinate system. and from that they transfer that to the ECEF reference frame, where that's the one that they say that we live on, which is the rotating W86 ellipsoid or whatever, right? So that distance derived should be invariant under transformation if it's to be in compliance with Lorentz symmetry, which is the rules for transformations. Which, if you, I'm sure you've probably heard the postulates of special relativity, where they say the laws of physics should be the same in all reference frames. And it's like, well, what does that mean? How do we verify that? You verify that through transformations. When you transform any variable that's a law of physics, or that represents, some constant variable like that, it has to be, when you transform it to a new coordinate system, that it has to be the same. So because GPS is based on the same synchronized time and the fixed speed of light, any transformation to any coordinate system should be the same. And what they show is that the speed of light varies dependent on the velocity of the observer. So if you take a situation where you have a stationary observer and an observer in motion, both with GPS signal receivers, right? And at the exact moment in time which the when the moving observer intersects with the stationary observer, if a GPS signal is sent, the stationary observer receives the signal first, and the moving observer receives theirs with a delay proportional to their velocity. And even though that the distance that they get the signal is the same at the same time, so that disproves the Einstein's second postulate, which is that the speed of light is should be the same in all reference frames. So the way that GPS works, it shows that there's a preferred reference frame to measure everything in. And then so when you look back at the equations used for Michelson-Gale and how to derive the Zanick effect, neither of those equations are relativistic equations. They don't require any corrections or anything like that. So they're first order measurements. Now, when you get into Michelson-Morley, they applied Lorentz contraction. Lorentz contraction is a second order effect, meaning that it's a correction made to a first order measurement. So from this postulate that the speed of light was actually the same, and they say, well, if we just Lorentz transform into this new system based on all reference frames being the same and the speed of light being invariant, then we're good to go. But let's see.
Holy crap, you've been looking into this a lot, haven't you? Oh my god.
Yeah, sorry, I was just getting the
No, that was good. That was good. I managed to follow probably 50% of it. Oh shit. Why did you mention Brian's logic? Because he always says there's no one way.
He just did a 3-hour presentation on GPS and coordinate system transformations.
All right.
And it's completely undermined by the fact that GPS is a time interval system, and it you could undermine the entire argument in just one sentence.
Oh, it was in a direct response to your appearance on Globebusters, we think, because the FED community had to do their own sort of thing, but they totally came up to bat and whiffed it. So
yeah, it was just to clear it up, like how GPS actually works and the significance of why that coordinate system transformation reveals the varying speed. And that's just in GPS technology, right? Like that's not even touching the interferometry stuff and the excuses that they get into with that. But the fact that the speed of light is proportional to the velocity of the observer is profound, right? Because that completely undermines everything they tell us about their interpretations of the cosmos, right? How they can look out in any direction and say that everything is uniformly nothing because the speed of light's the same and all that. Like it's not even close, dude. Like it completely shatters everything that they say. It undermines all of it.
Yeah. That
awesome. Sounds to me like C gets destroyed right there.
Yeah.
Do you know? I think I might have unsubscribe from Brian. I like Brian as well. I just
you don't have to unsubscribe from him.
No. I'm just saying I'm trying to find his channel and I can't find it. I might when they were all shitty to Witsit. I just sort of. I didn't go
their
back
presentation
to that show.
was on. It was on QE's channel. I'm not sure
all right.
what it is. It's Quantum Erasers channel. I don't know what the link is.
But I do like Brian. Yeah, he's
a good dude. But yeah, kind of missed it a little bit on that, and then And then so just to clarify the significance of it and why GPS would, if the speed of light were truly, fixed as they say, that would be reflected in GPS, and then it's not. It's actually your direct contradiction, and the fact that it requires second order corrections to first order measurements is like just, GG, well played. Like there's no coming back from that when you understand what that means,
So the stationary object receives the signal first, and the moving object second, and whoever gets the signal depends on the speed that they're traveling, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, it's game over.
Yeah.
It's
game over.
Yeah. Direction preferential is an absolute lethal blow.
Yeah. Well done.
Come on, be nice, guys. Be nice about that.
It's okay, dude. It'll be all right, brother.
It's just another nail in the coffin, as far as I see it. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is if you start looking into
crazy.
Dayton Miller, you start looking into Dayton Miller. He did 5,200,000 different versions of Michelson-Morley, showing it consistently varied with altitude, location, and time of year. And then, Alan, didn't you say that you found some recent replications in the 21st century of that very thing?
Yeah, can you rattle them off the top of your head?
Oh yeah, I found like 4. Give me 1 second. I'll rattle them off for you, bud. So here's a quick graph from that, or demonstration of the GPS signal receiver situation, so you could see kind of what that looks like visually. Wow. So even though those distances are the same, the speed of light still reflects that that there's, or through its variance, and because it's variance in the way that they're calculating it, that's what makes it so accurate too with these first order measurements. Because this is with that first measurement, they instantly derive the distance down to the millimeter, which is crazy.
Hold up.
This is good. This is good. Going in their backyard, using their own tools to defeat them. This is the best way to do it. Nice.
So here's I'll link the whole screenshot.
I was in my backyard, dude.
He took your basketball away from you, bro. Come on, this is bad.
You're good. All right. So for interferometry, we got.
I'm literally in a kiddie pool. I'm in a kiddie pool in my backyard.
All right. For interferometry, we got obviously Michelson-Morley, 1887, 1993, George Zanick, 1925, Michelson-Gale, 1905 to 1925, Dayton Miller reproducing the Michelson-Morley experiments to such a precise degree that during the equinoxes, he measured a fluctuation in the change of speed. So, hypothetically, if we lived on a flat Earth and there was an ether wind and the motion of the sun, if the translational speed of the sun that we see in the sky had to change for some reason to maintain a 15 degrees per hour in both hemiplanes, that speed that's what he hypothetically would have measured. If that's the case. Anyway, in 1942, Michelson-Morley was repeated by Pruner, Dufour, and then your boy, Yuri Galev also did it with millimeter radio waves. So he did his with radio waves and found that there's a preferred direction. And not only did he reproduce Michelson-Morley, he actually reproduced Dayton Miller's results, where he matched the fluctuation of the ether with the sidereal rotation of the sky, meaning that there's a direct cause and effect relationship with the translation of motion from the sky to the earth. Because when you go to altitude and all that, like the amount you detect varies, the equipment you use, like the metal shielding used can affect the readings and all that stuff. So the way that they do interferometry now, like just to rebut any future refutations, the way that they do interferometry now, they use different arm lengths for the apparatus. They change the sensor length. They use different mediums in the in what should be vacuum tubes or whatever, or they'll change out to several different types of gases, or they'll use a vacuum or whatever. Like they'll change up, meaning they'll just change up any of those combinations to get quote unquote no results, meaning that the speed of light is the same. It's so it's not producing a fringe. So the way and that's how they're facilitating it, and they're doing it under the guise of, the technology is just getting better. It's getting more refined. We're able to calculate it more accurately. No. They're cooking the books to reify Einstein, and this was already brought up by Dayton Miller and your boy Galav here, or Galav, and see who was the other guy? Oh, Maurice Elias also noted that in his analysis of Miller's work about about how the changes when compared to other experiments that are done in basement laboratories and stuff. And then we got let's see, Ruyang Wang, 2004. So this is an absolute body bag to the glob right here. So this is where your boy came in with a linear interferometer and did his thing. So what he showed is that that there's a preferred direction for the propagation of electromagnetic waves, and that it's not due to circular rotation or angular rotation, meaning that the Zanick effect, which was previously explained under general relativity by Paul Lavue, who made a special metric tensor to account for the conservation of energy on the small scale, meaning that a rotating device generates little pockets of time dilation and length contraction to produce the fringe shift, because the speed of light is absolutely invariant.
Wait a minute.
What's that? Oh, what's up?
Wait a minute. Makes little pockets of time dilation and
oh, you don't know about your boy Paul Lavue and his metric tensor, bro? So,
what?
So 1913, George Zanick came out with the rotating interferometer thing and discovered, the ether, right? And he was actually in France. He was actually given awards and stuff and like celebrated like for discovering the ether. And then it wasn't, and because it was rotating special relativity, they said, oh, well, it's a non-inertial frame, and we can't, we don't have any blah, blah, blah. We don't have an answer for it. So it wasn't until through the equivalence principle and general relativity, Paul Lavue came up with a metric tensor called the, the something Fitzgerald-Landau-Lifshitz metric. Anyway, that's what they use. To come up with conservation laws on the small scale. So, a rotating device. They say that the energy is equivalent to a gravitational field, obviously, and that's generating length contraction and time dilation. So that's how they were able to wrap up the Zanick effect within general relativity through the equivalent, just mathematically through the equivalence principle. And just for funsies, the metric that Paul Lavue derived is a first order intrinsic invariant differential, which is just a mathematical logic fallacy that gives the appearance of mathematics and has no physical meaning in reality. But that's a whole separate issue. But under the paradigm of how they tried to co-opt the effect, that's what they went with. Is that it generates little pockets of time dilation.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I wasn't trying to throw you off. That was just wild. So like,
no, you're good.
The linear test kind of body bags that made up explanation.
Wang.
Yeah. So the linear body bags it, especially because what it shows is that the effect persists in an inertial frame, and also that it's directionally dependent, meaning east is the preferred direction for how fast it goes, and then slow going in the opposite direction, and so with that, relativity really has no ability to explain the Zanick effect at all mathematically with its second order effects and invalid postulates in nature. And then, so there's one more guy. So in 2006, Monera reproduced the Michelson-Morley effect. And I have to read it again. I think he might have reproduced Dayton Miller as well. But yeah.
Didn't Einstein specifically say if anyone reproduced Dayton Miller would be in trouble, and that's why they went through all the effort to obscure and demonize and discredit and say actually temperature variations discredited all 5,200,000 experiments. But then these guys came along and did it anyway, so that wouldn't that according to Einstein body bag relativity?
Yeah, Einstein straight up said that if Dayton Miller's results are correct, then it topples relativity from the throne.
Damn, that sucks for you guys. Glober silence is loud, actually, huh?
Well, so the deception here is really twofold, right? Because the implication here with Wang's experiment as well as what he showed with the conveyor belt is that he would have, canceled out the Earth rotation. So what he showed there was that the ether wind effect is with respect to a stationary Earth. So this reference frame that they keep referring to, like in the ECI reference frame, where it's a stationary coordinate system that's not rotating, when the mathematics used for Michelson-Morley and Michelson-Gale, I'll pull those equations up real quick so you can see them. But the important thing to note here is that these all show a varying speed of light with no corrections needed. So there's. And then where do I have Michelson?
Can I say a thing or two about a thing or two real quick?
Sure can, buddy.
Can anybody talk about how they define a meter using the speed of light? I'd love to hear that. Because if it changed, they wouldn't know it. That'd be great.
Oh, they define the meter based on the speed of light. If the speed of light changes, the meter will change. That's all it.
You're cutting out.
So meters are shorter. So meters are shorter in the eastern direction. Are good.
Oh, but that's my point. Is that's my point. Curve things. Am I still?
You're cutting in and out a little bit, I think.
Well, I'm in my backyard, and my girlfriend's telling me to shut up. But
she knows.
She
knows you're stepping in it, bro.
Yeah, she probably does, man. I think I'm stepping in it, babe.
Right, well,
okay,
while you
okay,
yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dice says hi.
Okay, yeah. While he's doing that, so what Wang showed too there with the circular derivation for how they normally calculate the Zanick effect and the linear equation is that it's actually the same thing. So it's just equating the length of the device or what's in question, right? It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have anything to do with it being a specific to a rotational effect. So yeah, all very cool stuff, and all super proves stationary non-rotating with respect to an ether wind.
How dare you? Einstein is not impressed.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta say, man, I tried to Google that quote, and you know what? It doesn't pop up. Isn't it funny how I've specifically read in Einstein's own words that if Dayton Miller is correct, then it topples relativity from the throne because experiment reigns supreme, and you cannot find that quote on Google. No way. I mean, I don't even remember the exact quote, but I know for a fact I've read it.
I've read it in one of your presentations, so I know that it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't just craft a Dayton Miller quote from Einstein.
No, he definitely did. And you know what's funny too is this is how I'm pretty sure that Einstein didn't even know it. He was just some sort of actor character that they had to propagate all this through. Is because that book that you referenced where he talks about the angular momentum of the universe affecting the speed of light and how he regretted fixing the speed of light or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it's, relativity, special and general theory.
So just after that,
wait, it's Evolution of Physics by Enfelt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just after that, Einstein's yeah. So anyway, the gravitational redshift experiments that were conducted by Charles St. John and John Evershade, I hope those went well. And and then he just has a brief note on that. And dude, those are the two guys that completely falsified the gravitational redshift aspect of the theory and all that. And he's just I hope that went good. But those guys were specifically the two guys that were not on board with lying about the effects or trying to manipulate it, because Eddington even asked them. He was yo, can't you just pretend, bro? Let us have our cake. And they were nah, man, that's gay. We don't do that here. And yeah, it's super funny. Einstein just casually was just yeah, I hope that worked out. He has no idea,
Dude, nice. Toby found it. Should the positive result, Miller's, be confirmed, then the special theory of relativity, and with it the general theory of relativity, in its current form, would be invalid. Experimentum summus judice, which is just reign supreme, or is the judge. Only the equivalence of inertia and gravitation would remain. However, they would have to lead to a significantly different theory.
Hey, Witsit, Mr. Witsit.
No.
Hey, can you hear me? Check 1 2. Mic check.
Yes.
Yep.
Seen that channel called Dialect?
No.
Well, I'll just say there's a channel called Dialect. Me and Jace talk about it a lot. I think actually you would like it a lot because this guy, he disagrees with a lot of YouTubers' assessment on relativity. He has a whole episode about Machian, like the debate and basically Newton, right? About the the what do you call it, the rotating fucking barrel or whatever. But yeah, I would check it out. Dialect. Anyways, my point was. Oh man, what was my point? Oh goddamn. Sorry, there's bugs out here. I don't remember my point was, but I would check out that channel Dialect. It's relating to whatever you were just saying, which I forget now. I was gonna say something about the GPS thing because, like I said, I like SE. I like Alan a lot, a whole lot. I like you, Witsit. And I hate to disagree with you guys about this a lot. I disagree with you vehemently about this. And it's not really so much in Dayton Miller and Einstein, but in GPS disproving relativity or not, and the reference frame thing. Because I just need to say that the measurement is made in a single reference frame, and the transformation is made irrelevant to the reference frame, if that makes sense. Like there's a correction made for the relativistic differences between the clocks and the ground station and the satellite, but there's not a different, like there's no different reference frames being used. If that makes sense.
How do you explain the difference?
The measurement's made in a single reference frame.
Yeah, it's made in the ECI reference frame, and then it's transformed to the ECEF reference frame.
Yeah, was that
Right. Well, it's made in the EC. It's made in the reference frame that the receiver exists in. It's made in reference to the ECEF, ECI, ECF. What's made in one or the other?
Well, either way, it should be an invariant transformation under any coordinate system. So because GPS time is synced to the same, it accounts for the Zanick effect as well, using a similar equation that accounts for that. So that's how they sync all their clocks too. That's why the transformation should be invariant. That's why it disproves relativity, because what you're talking about is applying a second order correction to a first order measurement. Doesn't make any sense, brother. It would be reflected in the initial measurement if that were true.
Oh, right. Well, no. So, okay, what happens is the message is sent. The message comes from the clock, and the clock comes from the space vehicle, and the space vehicle has a clock on it, and that clock is correct by all intents and purposes because it has 4 or 8 atomic clocks on it, and that clock is correct by all measures, and it's sent to a receiver, and the receiver receives the message, and the message is interpreted in the reference frame of the receiver, and so the oh shit! Sorry, my girlfriend's taking pictures of me in a kid pool, but god damn it! But anyways, the receiver is stop taking pictures for a second, babe. Stop. You need help, Kosho? God damn it! What was it? Yeah, please. The receiver. God damn it! Can you somebody take over for a second, please?
Yeah, so we can just dismiss all that.
Yeah. So what's going on there is that if it didn't matter, they could just use the ECEF reference frame for the initial measurement. It would be fine, but they don't because the accuracy of it depends on being able to show the varying speed of light. And that's where the accuracy of it comes from. And then that's why when they transfer it to a new coordinate system that imposes the assumed speed of light, that's where there's a discrepancy, which is why it requires a second order correction. And the fact that it requires a second order correction is completely contradictory to special relativity on the face of it.
Yo, peep this up.
What's
You
up?
know how I said, like, clearly gravitation is the hijacking of magnetism?
Mhm.
Like, I just found Albert Einstein actually has 2 quotes about this. So, first one is, my opinion about Miller's experiments are the following. Should the positive result be confirmed, then the special theory of relativity, and with it, the general theory of relativity in its current form would be invalid. Experiment reigns supreme. Only the equivalence of inertia and gravitation would remain. However, they would have to lead to a significantly different theory. That's Albert Einstein in a letter letter to Edwin Slauson, July 1925. There's another quote, and he said, "I believe that I have really found the relationship between gravitation and electricity." Yeah, because magnetism, electricity are, tied to the hip and you hijack. He said, assuming that the Miller experiments are based on a fundamental error. Otherwise, the whole relativity theory collapses like a house of cards. That's Albert Michelson in a letter to Robert Millikan, June 1921. So there's two quotes about it. So this is 4 years, right? You got 1921, he says that. Then 4 years later, he's still saying, well, if his results should be confirmed. So obviously in those 4 years, Einstein didn't feel like he could refute it.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I remember why I brought up the dialect channel. There, in that episode regarding the Einstein and Newton and Machian principle, he goes over like a timeline in which like he shows like basically Einstein's timeline. Is that a picture? I really thought that you just doxed me for a second, dude, because that literally looks like what I'm doing right now. But God damn it! Hold on, sorry. Anyways, in the episode I'm talking about, I was like, I really thought that that was a picture of me. But what was I saying? God damn it. No, in that episode, he shows an Einstein timeline, and he shows how Einstein flip flops his whole paradigm. He flip flops like 2 or 3 times, back and forth basically between how he's interpreting all of these things, including Machian principle and the consequences of relativity. It's pretty interesting actually, because he even though he comes up with relativity, he goes back and forth with how he thinks about it in his life, and it's pretty apparent.
Yeah, for sure.
I did want to finish up though what I was saying. My girlfriend, she totally messed me up, dude, and I feel like I was on a roll, and then she just really took a rug from underneath me.
Well, agree, disagree.
Listen to me, assholes. Listen to me. What was I saying? I was saying something about
you were floundering, and she saved you. Is how it seemed, actually.
Shut the hell up! Shut the hell up! But no, what was happening was
Get him a rubber
I was
ducky.
saying that. I was saying that the message is sent in the frame of the space vehicle, which the clocks are 100% correct because there's 4 atomic clocks on it. It's received by whatever the receiver is, which has a flawed clock on it, which is where the corrections are needed to be made. However, the clocks are all in reference to the frame of the receiver because it's a message that's sent at a time that it came from the space vehicle and then is received at a certain time at the receiver, but it's of course in the frame of the receiver because the difference is going to be measured by the receiver. So there's not multiple reference frames that needed to come into play, and actually the only correction that needs to be made is in the errors in the clock of the receiver. It's not in like the relativistic the relativistic corrections are only in the differences in the clocks, not in necessarily the length of the message and stuff like that. The length of the message is because the receiver is receiving it from all 4 clocks from the same frame. Those times are seen as perfect. Like, there's no relativity needed from that point. It's like it's basically a flash in time, like a moment in time where those clocks are in one position, and the length of time it took to get to it, it's going to measure that as time. The only corrections that are needed is in the errors in the clock of the receiver. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's coming in clear, but it seems to that the argument that you guys are making is that there's corrections in the contraction of space or the
No.
differences in time.
No, can I
go
talk?
ahead.
All right, yeah. So I just posted a excerpt from a paper there So what that guy is referencing is his take on another paper where they've reviewed exactly what you're talking about. So the only corrections they make are the SAGNET corrections, and they apply them after they transform out of the ECEI reference frame. So like the exact thing that you're talking about and how it should be invariant, shouldn't matter, and all that stuff is directly contradicted by how GPS works and all the experimental evidence and papers that I'm presenting. It seems kind of like I mean, you want to see a video of Ron Hatch talking about it? Like he pulls up the manual. He has a manual of what they, their directive interface computations or whatever it's called, how to interact with it, or how to program the satellites or whatever. And yeah, like they explicitly do it in that reference frame. It shows a varying speed of light. It's proportional to the velocity of the observer, and they say just calculate it anyway and do it. And then so they're only applying second order. They're applying the Sagnac effect after the fact, after they already accounted for it in a one-way measurement. So they're showing that the speed of light is truly changing, and that they're recorrecting. The fact that they have to recorrect it on any back end is completely invalidates relativity.
All right, let me be clear about this because I want to see. I can't see what you posted or what you were talking about the guy who tested it, but and I don't mean this. I'm sorry, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but what I'm prepared to do, not at this moment because I'm in my underwear in the pool in the backyard, but what I'm prepared to do at some point tonight is present to you guys the message actually sent and the message and the information that's sent on it. And in the message, you can see that there's not the frame that it's being described, that the length of time is being described from is in the frame of the observer. And Ron Hatch, here's the thing about Ron Hatch that you have to understand. He's extremely biased, and his contributions to GPS have nothing to do with anything relativistic. He had to do with he worked for a company that was doing, what do you call that, like was it like John Deere or something like that, where they're doing the differential GPS, which is basically where you do corrections from ground base stations and the GPS satellites to give you sub-centimeter accuracy. And he did a lot of contributions to that. He did nothing to do with the corrections based on relativistic stuff. And so there's a part of the message where they make the relativistic corrections. And as I said, it'd make more sense if I presented it and you could see it. The corrections. The first thing that happens is that the measurement is taken of the time difference between the clock and the different stations, and they make a pseudo range. They give a pseudo range for where you are, and then to make the corrections, they put in these relativistic corrections and these other type of corrections that give you a more accurate point. But it has nothing to do with anything relativistic to the difference in like the speed of light from it to you. The only relativistic corrections are in the clocks. Like it's in the difference in the time of the clock. Like the time the clock tells you it's coming from and the clock that you have, which is incorrect, there's corrections that need to be made. And like I said, it's got nothing to do with the light that's coming to you. It just has to do with the errors in your clock. So the only way I could really take this home is by showing you the actual message, but you gotta give me a minute to do that.
Error in the clock? You mean clocks that don't lose a second in like a billion years or something? Are you sure of that?
Yes. That's my point. Those are accurate, 100%. So the clocks up there are accurate, 100%. What's incorrect and what's variable is the receivers, your cell phone, your TomTom, all these things that have variable errors in them that are different than the clocks and GPS. In order for it to work accurately, they have to be like in sync. They have to be, just like perfect, just like those ones. Those ones are perfect. So there's no errors in them. However, they're going to run differently because of the gravitational time dilation and also the slight velocity time dilation. And so there's corrections that have to be made, and those come in the message as well. But those are only clock corrections. Those aren't corrections in like the light that's coming to you. The light that's coming to you is seen as coming from a fixed position
and that's used to measure the distance. That's used as a perfect position. It's not used as a some kind of variable speed of light thing. It's used as a position in the sky in which the time difference and this known speed of light gives you the distance. Like that's how that's used.
So the clocks are correct. Speed of light is constant. But the problem is the receiver, you're saying?
Yeah, the problem is the receiver clocks. That's right. Is the difference between the perfectness of
the receiver doesn't have a clock, bro. The whole thing is designed to take that out of the equation. The initial measurement that it takes in the ECI reference frame with the range measurement equation instantly derives the distance. No corrections necessary, dog. Like that's the whole issue. So when you're talking about when they transform it to another reference frame, the speed of light isn't the same. Otherwise, the distance would be the same when they transform it.
Yeah, but these corrections are all before the reference frame.
No. These corrections are second order corrections that invalidate the need for them. In a first order measurement, it's shown the speed of light changes. Applying a second order correction to reify length contraction and time dilation is, it's ad hoc. That's the whole point of Lorentz covariance. That's the whole point of saying all reference frames are the same and then adhering to Lorentz covariance. That's the violation. That's the huge distinction that's being made here. Because how you're conflating how deep with GTPS and pseudo ranges and all that shit, not non sequitur. This instantly derives the distance down to the millimeter on the first measurement. It's not encoding separate messages about clock corrections or anything like that. And all the clocks are synced to calculating for the Zanick effect as well. So just the same thing that Wang pointed out with the preferred direction, how the speed of light goes faster by 14 microseconds going east to west than it does west to east. That's what they're synced to. That's it. There's no other calculations. Like I know like you keep repeating like this long-winded explanation of things.
Well, I'll just ask you a question. Just ask you a question then, because what you just stated is incredibly wrong about what so the clock and the receiver is one of the most important things, because the message that's sent is a message that has information about the space vehicle and the time. And so the only thing that the receiver gets is that time. And the only thing that the receiver has is that time. The only way to calculate the distance from the receiver is by measuring the difference between that time and the time on the receiver. And so when you say that the clock on the receiver doesn't matter, that's incredibly wrong. That's the only way it works, is by having the time on the receiver and the time on the sent message. That's the only way you can determine the distance.
The distance derived from that should be invariant, though. Like, do you get that concept of it? That the whole point of GPS being a time interval system is that you could transform that distance to any coordinate system, and that it would be the same distance. It would, like, the accuracy would be pinpoint, because that's what would be required for things like intercepting missiles and all that kind of stuff, like real time tracking of that. Like, that's how all that would work. It would work off one way. First order measurements, real precise, real quick. Like, that's it. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with the way that you're attributing it to allow for the second order corrections to be, necessary, so to speak. Like, it was. Yeah.
Forget about the corrections for a minute, because it's important to understand that the way that it's done is that a point in time is occurring in which the receiver is receiving a message from 4 different satellites or 4 different senders, in which it's taking a message from each of those senders and determining a distance to each of them using the time it has and the time that it was sent. And that is done in a ECEI reference frame. And whatever it then transforms that into is irrelevant, because it doesn't matter, because once it has that, the transformation is something else. Like, it's like there's a XYZ point, and now it needs to be transformed into a longitude and latitude point,
in which the Earth is in there and all this kind of stuff. But you can, as long as the fix is made. But for the fix to be made, the correction it has to be done, and that correction only has to do with the errors in the clock. Like it, I don't mean to be long-winded or anything, but I'm just trying to say that there's no relativistic correction that's made by the fact that the receiver's moving and they're moving. Like the only correction that's made in that respect is the fact that the clocks are going to be different. And that's not going to be made. It's not a correction for like the length that the light is traveling or something like that, because the length is seen to be made in a single point in time in which the satellite's in a single position and the receiver's in a single position. Does that make sense?
So transformations are entirely the point, because it starts in one reference frame or one coordinate system and ends up in another, and to get there it's done via transformation, and those transformations have rules, and a rule has been violated and it's exposed during the transformation. So it's entirely relevant, it's entirely the point. And if the speed of light and it worked the way that you think it does, that the original distance derived would be an invariant transformation, because the GPS is synced to GPS time. It's already good to go, and the speed of light is already assumed to be a fixed value. So all distances should be transformed invariantly under those pretenses, and they're not. Like, it's ignoring that is a huge like I don't know. We're just kind of talking in circles at this point. Like, if you're good to call it, I'm good to call it, man. Because I don't want to just keep going back and forth over like talking past each other. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I'm getting dried off. Like I said, I'm in a kid's pool, and I'm just trying to get dried off, and I'm gonna go inside. And I'm not doing this to.
No, you're straight, bro.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to make a presentation. You make really good presentations, by the way, and I really do appreciate you. I'm gonna have to make a presentation though that kind of displays how I understand the GPS message to be sent and how it works and what it involves, and where any relativistic corrections come in, because I think there's a disconnect here, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, I guess I can't do much where I am right now. So
yeah, you're straight.
So, like, if I understand it correctly, right? If we could just say, like, we have a speed of light c in one reference frame. Let's call it the Earth-centered inertial frame, right? The basic starting origin. Let's call it theta prime, right? The original coordinates that we have a speed of light. Let's say it equals 1. We convert that speed of light over to a globular geodesic WGS84 system, and now the speed of light, which is invariant, equals 1.1 in this new coordinate system. But because we know that, we have an additional correction that we subtract 1.1, so it actually equals c again. But the transformation warped the distance. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
It's revealing that the speed of light in the new coordinate system isn't the same as the first coordinate system.
Right. But so you transfer it's supposed to be invariant, but you transferred it and now it has a different value because that isn't the fit.
Oh, so, yeah, I got you. Sorry, I was kind of tuned out. I was reading something.
Yeah, I got you, man. But that's like the baseline analogy when you're in coordinate system transfers and covariant transformations, meaning something like a law has to be a constant in all reference frame, and it's noticeably and measurably not. Hence, the correction is needed when they transfer it to a different coordinate frame. They have to make an adjustment that makes it look like it's covariant transformation, but it isn't because they had to adjust.
Yes, sir, and it's really noticeable what's going on when you realize Michelson Morley, Michelson Gale, and Zanick are all the same experiment, and they only apply the second order corrections, i.e. length contraction and time dilation, to Michelson Morley, but to Michelson Gale and Zanick, they use no relativistic corrections and readily accept the the variance in the speed of light. But in order to explain the effect, they did have to come up with a mathematic solution for it. So that's where Paul Lavaux came in. But these effects are explaining it through relativistic means, are second order explanations to a phenomenon that's clearly showing that the speed of light fluctuates relative to the observer, into the ether wind relative to the latitude. So the way that they disguise that is they act like Michelson-Morley is like this unique interferometer situation, and that's okay to apply the length contraction and stuff there in that way. But these other two, like, you can just do first order measurements with them with no corrections, no assumptions. You don't have to assume anything about space and time warping or dilating to derive actual measurements with it. But in order to believe that you're orbiting the sun, you have to adhere to a second order correction, with no way to falsify it, right? Because we can't get outside of our reference frame to see something contracting in motion, right? And especially not to measure it to the accuracy of the degree which would be required to verify it, right? So it's very precarious when you look at it from that understanding of what they did with the math and the rules for corrections and transformations, and what it truly means if C were invariant, and like how that would manifest in reality.